Hey, it's Tuesday, October the 20th, 2020. This is the Giant Bombcast. I am Brad Shoemaker. Jan Ochoa is here. Jeff Gersman is here.
Hi.
Dapper Ben Pack is here.
Pew, pew. Pew, pew.
And very energetic.
He's shooting the guns.
That's
He's
right.
got.
Oh, you got a sugar-free with you.
Apparently he has wings this week.
I did. The sugar-free wing. Sugar-free.
I got this because I already drank this.
Okay.
Neither of those. Does that one have sugar?
First question, can sugar-free wings really be called wings?
No, they're WYNGZZZ.
Okay, yes.
That's my wings cover band.
They're faux wings. Second question, if Red Bull gives you wings, what does Diet Pepsi give you?
Gout.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. Checks out.
And a prehensile tail.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I would.
I'll get on that.
I would love to have a prehensile tail. That would be so useful.
Would you?
That would be so
Imagine
useful.
you have to cut a hole in all your pants.
That's true. Well, if you could control it that well, you could tuck it into a leg, a pant
what
leg.
if you could start wearing shorts all the time and you just have it peek out under a short leg?
It still comes out though. It comes out your butt.
I mean,
no matter what you do, it can't go like.
But it's like top of the crack, right? I mean, it doesn't come out of your butt like it's poo.
Well, sure, you know what I mean though. It comes out of near your crack.
You would have to change all the types of underwear you wear too.
You couldn't.
No, you just wear them low because if your tail comes out of the top of the top of your butt crack,
okay,
you just wear your pants a little bit low, and it's just like that might be abrasive on one part of the tail, but I think you could do that exactly as Ben is illustrating for people watching the video thing. That's what is that? That's an elephant. Are you making shadow puppets with no shadows? Is this your Jeffrey Toobin?
This is how we get banned.
Hey, man,
This is how we get banned.
Save it for the emails.
Toobin zone.
Save it for the emails.
Biff and Jet
Please.
are banned. Sent home.
They just wanted to go down that river.
Nope.
That's all they wanted
Sorry.
to do.
They went down the river Styx, and now what?
And now they're hanging out
World
with
War or whatever.
hypnos.
Yeah. You do literally go down the river Styx and Toobin.
I don't know if this is news to anybody, but it's October 20th. We're kind of getting into it here.
I feel like in some years we would be in it.
Oh, for sure.
Yet it feels like we are not.
Well,
it's weird.
Let's say pre-new console releases, there's not a lot of it to be in.
Yeah.
There's kind of not anything going on this month. Not even a Call of Duty or something. But behind the scenes,
is there not?
No. It's what is it? November 1st week of November?
13th.
Call
of Duty.
Nice.
Yeah.
After both
Post
consoles.
new consoles. Yes.
Wow. Yeah, there's just not much going on in October, but things are happening that are ramping up to these releases. I mean, election is 2 weeks from today. Xbox Series X is 3 weeks from today. PlayStation 5 is 2 days after that.
The world is going to be so different because of those three things.
A lot of stuff happening in the next
hopefully
3 weeks.
If all those things happen and on the other end of it nothing has changed, it's going to be a problem. Because those consoles, let me tell you.
Yes.
Let's talk about it.
Okay. What do you got to say?
I'm not excited for new consoles.
No?
There's no games.
Yeah, no, I mean, I kind of get you. Like, if you're a Miles Morales guy, you could just play that on your PlayStation 4.
Yeah.
I actually have been wanting to play Spider-Man again.
I am exceedingly excited about new consoles, but I also agree with you on the games thing. I want to mess around with the new stuff.
Well, that's the thing. Like, you, like me, will be satisfied just dinking around in system menus for a few hours.
And seeing how did this auto HDR stuff go?
Yes.
How big is that PlayStation 5? If I stick this controller down my pants, what does it do?
Can I balance that console on my head?
Yes, I want to see a PlayStation.
No,
I want to touch on a PlayStation 5.
I'm going to go ahead and say you can balance neither of those consoles on your head.
I don't know, that Series X.
The Xbox is your best bet. It's
very well balanced.
Dude,
it's pretty big. That's pretty big.
It's gonna hurt your head.
It's the top hat of consoles.
It's true. It's true.
Right.
If you just put a brim on it, it's like
if you put it on top of the PS5
5, it kind of has that popped collar look. You can kind of you take the Joy-Cons, you got some arms, you can make a little Voltron there.
Oh man,
but it's a square top hat, like it was a Minecraft top hat. It's very on brand.
I want to see fan art where the Series X is the top hat and the PS5 is the popped collar polo shirt.
Oh no.
Somebody, please.
That's like your like cross-gen Chan.
That's coexist.
That you want, yes, and this coexist with the fucking PlayStation logo somehow shaped into an E.
The Series X.
I feel like you've just willed like a lot of really bad shit into the world over the last minute here with the things you've been saying out loud. But
I mean, somebody had to get us past all the refrigerator and router photoshops.
Oh yeah, we're post that shit. That's like day one.
Yeah, that was like 5 minutes after the presentations.
I'm also not really into the photoshopping people have been doing to make the PS5 look bigger in that dude's hands and stuff. It's just like when the Xbox One was big, people were photoshopping it, taking up or like saying like, look at it, it takes up an entire parking lot, or like whatever marketing event that like people thought bigger. They went more places with it than like, look, it's slightly bigger than.
But that's funny. I love that. I love a subtle Photoshop just to like kind of throw people off, being like, is that like all the stuff that Vic Berger does with his video editing, where it's just like make them a little more bulbous, make them a little more weird, just to kind of like. And then over time, see people get accustomed to it. And then when they release the bigger box, I'm saying it's a PSYOP. I'm saying it's all a PSYOP.
Yeah.
PSYOPs is coming out on the Xbox.
PSYOPs is coming to
remastered.
Thousands of games, generations. We believe in them, or we don't.
Remedy the PSYOP IP.
The PSYOPs confirmed backwards compatible?
I don't believe it is.
I don't think PSYOP is one of the 100 most popular PS4 games.
But on the Xbox, if and when you get
I don't think they have put because that is an original Xbox game.
Just put the PSYOPs disc in there and see what happens.
I'm gonna let me check and see. Do I own PSYOPs on the Xbox?
How do you not have PSYOPs on?
I might only own it on PS2.
I'm gonna say there is 0% chance.
Yeah, I'm saying it is likely that I own it, but also it is not supported on the backwards compatibility list.
Well,
that's unfortunate.
I do own both versions of PSYOPs: the Mindgate Conspiracy, 2004 zone.
Doesn't that game start with somebody throwing a truck with their mind?
Probably.
I think that's all I know about PSYOPs.
It seems like how it would go.
I wanted to ask, where are we going to be at with the online rhetoric now that the PlayStation 5 is the big ass console? Because
it's weird. It
has been one of the talking points among the Sony Roddy.
Oh boy!
Like, your big American console.
Yeah,
I
literally just Googled, the infamous photo of Japanese journalists laughing at the original Xbox. You remember that? Have you guys ever seen that? The youngsters among us. Have you?
I was in Japan for the original Xbox launch.
Yeah,
and I remember Japanese journalists not necessarily like laughing at it, but definitely looking at it, going, okay, like they're definitely okay, Microsoft, you showed up and did this event. Like, I don't know why, but here you go. Definitely not into it. They were definitely not into it.
Oh, how the tables
Hummer
have turned.
doesn't play as well in Japan. The Hummer of consoles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which was the
original. But so that was always the thing, is like, okay, well, now you've got an Xbox that seems to be, based off the specs, is more powerful than the PlayStation 5, but also big in a different way, where the PS5 is big in a big, whatever. And, talk about the bulbous anime nightmare of the PlayStation 5 versus the fucking
monolith nightmare,
gigantic slab of Xbox.
Like, honestly, I'm like, I feel like the PS5 is the EVA mech, and the Xbox Series X is the BattleTech mech.
Yeah,
like they're both just like the Eastern versus Western types of mechs.
What's the other Gundam, like the evil Gundams, the little squat looking Cyclops ones, Ben? Zekrom something. That's what the Xbox reminds me of.
The little guy,
stout. Yeah,
the
stout, built like a tank.
He doesn't really have limbs. He just kind of has nubs.
Yeah, Zaku. That's
Zaku.
what it is. God.
All right.
Stuff's happening.
Yeah, I
These
mean, that's
consoles are
the
going to come
thing,
out.
like, there's Demon Souls. There's the new Spider-Man.
My credit card has been charged for one of the consoles. In fact,
Whoa. Wait.
I have a pending charge from.
Oh, pending. Okay, I thought that I was going to say. I thought they didn't do that until they shipped.
No, you can see like what's on hold for, and different retailers are going to do it differently. So, but I have a hold on my credit card for $540.
Should I ask which one?
I don't remember. Because they're both the same
They're
amount.
both $4.99, so you'd have to look up
2 Switch lights.
who you got what from.
Which pre-orders started? Okay,
PS5.
so this would be the PS5, I think. Then.
All right. Okay.
Because I got my Xbox from Best Buy, and this isn't a Best Buy. Okay, yeah. So that is the PlayStation 5, I believe, has a hold charge on it, and it kept sending notifications to my phone. I think as they would like put the hold on and take it off. I don't know what happened, but like over the last week, I've gotten like notifications on my phone for like, hey, this place charged you $540, and I got like 3 of them, and I'm like, oh, did their system glitch out, and I accidentally bought 3 fucking PS5s, and I thought for a moment. Yeah.
Jan, you know, we have very, very different conditions than most people when it comes to like the consoles. We kind of have to be up on both. But since we're not going to be in the office for a while where we would normally be able to access both pretty easily, are you leaning one way or another? Are you looking at these consoles at all?
I mean, I really want to play Miles Morales, but I can play that on a PS4. The only thing kind of pushing me over the edge, at least in this launch window, is Dark Souls. But also the look of the new Xbox just intrigues me because of how much of a monolith it looks like. Also, I feel like there's a perfect place on my desk right now that's square enough that I think it might fit.
Yeah. I feel like
I might just get a mini fridge and put that there.
Right, they're interchangeable.
Yeah, a good mini fridge about the same price as like an Xbox Series S. So I don't know.
You really, it's weird though. You really are in a situation where even you guys needing to play games for like a Game of the Year feature or whatever, like there's next to no games you aren't going to be able to play in some form with the hardware that you already have.
Right, and like Ben and I both have like PCs now, so that's also.
I think it, like Demon Souls is like it, right? Like, isn't that basically the one game that you can't?
Destruction All-Stars, is that maybe not?
Right. Yes. Oh no, I think that got pushed, didn't it?
Just making up games again.
Because even Bugsnax is coming out on PC, right?
Yeah, Bugsnax is coming to PC same day.
An Astrobot. That's
Astrobot, yes.
Sackboys.
Astrobot's not real.
Sack
Astrobot can't hurt you.
Does Astrobot get a page in the wiki since it's a packet? Like it's not a retail.
Oh wait,
it's a retail
is
game.
the new Five Nights? Is the new Five Nights at Freddy's only PS5?
Oh, that can't be right. There's no way.
There's no way. It's coming to, for the first time, a console, the PlayStation.
Okay, I guess not. I could have sworn Destruction All Stars.
The PS PlayStation
got delayed, but it looks like no.
PlayStation.
The PSP is back.
Yep, PSP's back.
Okay.
Hell yeah, baby!
And it's huge.
The PSNP, the PlayStation, no way portable.
Yeah, I mean they knew people couldn't travel anymore, so they were just like, you don't need to take it with you.
Yeah.
It's actually, if you sit in it, it's
in it
made in a way that if they're stacked together, you're keeping 6 feet away from anyone else who's also sitting in one. It's perfect.
Get in the PSP, Ben.
Yeah, just fucking. You have to like G Gundam it and put on the suit that's like liquid metal over you, and you just have to break through, and then you can kind of control Kratos to do his whips with your arms. It's pretty cool. I'm excited for that more than the PS5.
Yes, I love to do Kratos's whips.
The other thing is like, I don't know if we'd be able to take advantage of like the streaming at like 120 or like whatever hertz in like 4K, given like our current setups at home.
Yeah, we were talking about that yesterday. Like, I don't think there's a place for us to host 120 hertz video, is there?
Yeah, unless we just drop like
and like our player right now, I think would probably bust it down to 60 if I had to guess.
Yeah.
And
I mean, we could literally do what I did with that Minecraft server and just host it as a file that people can download from our servers.
Right. Yeah. That's yes. I'm sure that there's some backwater server somewhere we could throw that on that no one would notice, and it'd be like cbsallAccess.com/brad/private/space /shifted space
Boletaria _
0 day /
tower _ of tower _ latria .mkv. Yes. Yes. Consoles.
Yeah, man, it's gonna be ridiculous. I think that aspect of it is gonna be really weird, and I don't know what to do about the 120 hertz stuff. Like, I'm curious to see it. I guess I'll try plugging it into this monitor here because that's a high refresh rate thing, and hopefully that'll work. But yes, the hosting and distribution of video that is even recorded that way doesn't seem like something that we'll see a lot of at or around launch. I mean, shit, man, like Microsoft and Sony doing their streams and press conferences and all that other stuff. We're like, hey, we put this out at 1080-60 because it's hard. So like even they weren't necessarily ready to go with that stuff when they did their announcements. So whatever.
Yeah. We'll talk about it.
We'll figure it out.
We'll say, hey.
And then the video robot end of it, I mean, honestly, like, hey, we are in the middle of a big acquisition, and the technology and all that other stuff is not in a place where I think we could go. I mean, whatever. I have a meeting tomorrow. I'll ask, but the idea of going in and saying like, hey, can you update all this stuff that to support 120 hertz? Doesn't seem like something that we would do near term.
Video encoding platform that we're not sure we're going to have access to in a few months.
That honestly sounds great because I think switching to a different, better video platform would be cool. Getting off of the thing that we use to distribute our videos to YouTube, which is bad, and replacing it with something that was good would be fucking radical. So
I like technology that is good. Personally,
dude, I love technology when it's good, and I think getting away from some bad technology and replacing it with better technology sounds exciting. And that's why I'm excited about the consoles.
Yeah, sure.
Regardless of if there are new games out for them, I am like actually still like I'm pretty psyched to get those things in and get my filthy hands all over them and fuck around with some games and see what works, what doesn't.
Yeah. I'm excited.
Which of the two do you think is going to have a better smell out of the box?
Xbox. Too many components at play on the outside of the PS5. The each of those is going to have a different finish, and I think they're going to fight with each other.
Because the Xbox, it's like matte around it, right? The PS5 seems like
Xbox is just like it's like. One big kind of not scented candle versus a couple of scented candles, small, but the scents just don't match. It's not gonna work.
I think the PS5 will have that chemically smell that I need.
Okay, sure.
Oh, so I hate that.
I can see
that chemically smell.
How much plastic do you think you'll be able to like peel off of the new consoles? I feel like the PS5 is going to have a lot of it. The Xbox is just going to be wrapped in plastic.
Yeah,
you think?
I think so. It's going to be wrapped in plastic.
One X just had that one little sticker on the front.
So the Xbox will be wrapped in plastic. PS5 will have a fishnets percolator. We'll get past all this stuff, and it'll all work out.
PS5 will come in a large Crown Royal bag.
Okay, sure. That's good.
All right.
I love
what?
Crown Royal bag.
I'd be down.
What if it was a water-cooled console, but it just had a spout at the top you could open and then just drink Crown Royal out of it? And then, if you don't replace the Crown Royal and turn on the PS5, it's going to overheat. Like, don't fucking do it.
Oh no!
And as we all know, Crown Royal ages very well.
It starts good, gets better. That's the promise.
Yes. Indeed.
I had a roommate who got way into Crown Royal, and I have like a zillion of those little bags, little felt bags. They're great bags.
Dude, they're so.
You got 20-sided dice.
They're so versatile.
Hey. Yeah.
You can put anything in there.
Yeah.
Almost.
Cool rock.
Yeah. That's right.
Cool rocks.
Anything.
That's right.
I got cool rocks. You want to see some cool rocks?
Yeah.
I like cool rocks.
Jeff is left to get his cool rocks.
I like cool rocks.
That was
better
too
than...
close to you. That was way too close to you.
Wow.
It's big.
That's a smooth rock.
It's
smooth.
Not watching it's a circular. It's gray.
That's a real skipper.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's a little. Yeah. I found it. They said take only pictures, leave only footprints, and I said yeah, but what if I took a rock too? And so I did, and now I got this rock that I got from a beach. I don't remember which one.
You guys good at skipping rocks? I'm terrible at it.
I used to be great at it. I used to be really good at it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I haven't done it
It's
in a
one
long
of
time.
those things. If you don't use it, you lose it.
Oh, no.
It's one of those. Yeah.
Shit.
Long lost art.
No.
Speaking of long lost arts, the art of driving remote controlled vehicles around your house.
Oh, I have thought
Whoa.
about using this as a webcam today.
He brought a prop.
I brought a prop. Mario Kart Live home circuit now out in stores. I gotta say, y'all, this thing is pretty dang neat. Quick Look is up on the site now.
Yeah, can you hold it up
Yeah,
again? That's
I
pretty,
thought it was going to be.
sizable.
It's
Yeah,
like a
it's
two-hander for Jan.
So hold on, where's something? Okay.
I thought it'd be like, a little guy like this.
Oh, really? No,
Right.
I think that's about exactly the size.
Oh, you should.
So
It's
here's
like
a
as big as
switch.
During the break,
then
you should
here-
absolutely set that up as a webcam.
Oh, I
for,
will
for the rest
I
of the show.
I have a ruler. I think I mentioned in the quick look, it's like 5x7, and then it's like about 3.5 inches tall. And it's Nintendo's latest foray into the AR physical toy sphere. And so instead of like playing on pre-made tracks like in Mario Kart, like Rainbow Road, et cetera, you are physically making the tracks. They give you 4 different gates, cardboard gates to drive underneath, and you make your own custom course from there. And they recommend that you have a space of 10 by 12 feet. It's kind of pretty big, especially if you live in like a small apartment, a 1-bedroom type of deal. I had to clear a lot of space. Even my kitchen, it seemed like I didn't have enough space there. I made too tight of a loop donut that the camera on this bad boy wasn't able to read the gate numbers or whatever. It's $99. Only one per cart.
Yeah, that's kind of steep.
And
It's
one
kind
per
of steep.
switch. So if you're playing 2-player, you need 2 switches
Yeah.
on top
Yeah.
of that.
Well, for the
So-
price, I mean, you'd kind of expect people would bring their own Switch end thing over that they bought anyway. But
I ain't bringing nothing nowhere.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
I
so like, that's
kind of
my.
assumed you'd be able to use 2 Joy-Cons and play like on a Switch together.
I mean, that's my real question: is this thing worth it if you're the only one that has one?
So if you're the only one that has one,
It's a lot of time trials, right?
it's a lot of time trials, but you do race against like AI Koopalings and
Okay.
Bowser Jr. on
Okay.
like the courses you make.
That's okay.
And I was a little hesitant hesitant because like, once you make the one course and you're stuck doing a Grand Prix, how is that going to get differentiated per each different course or whatever? But then with the AR, it just winds up kind of adding environmental hazards, changing up the aesthetics or like the look of the courses. And look, like in the quick look, the first race we did, it was just a plain race through my living room. But then the second one, it was supposed to be underwater, so everything was underwater. I couldn't tell if the physics itself felt like how the underwater segments in Mario Kart races go. But the environmental hazards were some that you'd come across in an underwater level. Like the gates were covered in coral and stuff. And like that
Question.
part's really neat.
Does it when you're saying like it looks like the Mario Kart stuff, does it actually play like the Mario Kart stuff? Is it kind of a 1-to-1?
So that's the weird thing. Like you can, it plays exactly like how Mario Kart would. You can drift.
Yeah,
like, drift
that
and
was
stuff.
when I watched your quickly. That was the thing that really stuck out to me. Was like, oh my god, they do the straight up sparks when you're drifting that change
Yeah.
color the more you drift. But I mean, does that thing? Surely that thing doesn't physically drift, right?
It's not physically drifting.
Okay.
Like when you're watching the camera feed, it looks like how it would in the normal Mario Kart games. But then I was watching the physical kart, and it's just like kind of slowly turning, and it's not like drifting on your actual floor or anything.
Does it get the little boost after?
It does
you
get the little
drift?
boost.
Okay.
So right out the box, you have access to 50 and 100 cc. The more you keep playing and earning trophies, you get access to 150 and 200.
Mhm.
And some of the Mario Kart power-ups, like the bullet bill power-up, will make you zoom by faster, and it actually does that with the cart. So if you're just in 50 cc, you're kind of like slowly creeping through your place. But then once you get like a 1-up mushroom or like a mushroom or a golden mushroom, you are actually physically going faster. And the power-ups all work the same. So if you get hit with the lightning bolt power-up, your
car
cart slows
shrinks.
down. Well, it doesn't actually shrink, but slows down. Or if you hit the like a banana peel, you'll stop in place for a little bit.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's really neat, and it's weird to just see my house from like that low of a perspective. I will say I was having connectivity issues a lot with it.
That stuff looks rough.
It's a little rough, and I made a mistake in the quick look. I said it was Bluetooth connected to the Switch. It turns out it's just going off the Switch's local Wi-Fi chip that it emits. But even then, I was having a lot of trouble with it. I wound up moving to my living room, which was a little bit more of an open space, and even there, I was having issues. And I wasn't too far from the Switch. And everything I've seen of like videos, I see people using their Switch in handheld mode. So I wonder if like are kids supposed to be following their cart physically or like turning in place, so it's kind of like a clear connection to the cart itself. It has a USB-C port for charging, and I gotta say, like the most fun I've had with it though is just exploring around, as like with the little cart and just watching like the little camera go. As you play through the courses, as you collect coins, you're unlocking stuff. So you're unlocking customization options for like the different gates. So with each gate, there's 4 of them, and you have to use all 4 of them. At gate 2, you could specify like, hey, I want this to be a boost because I designed this to be a straightaway. But at 3, I want you to have like power-ups or whatever. You can change that up. And as you collect more coins, you can unlock more options for your courses. There's also a bunch of cosmetics. I think like the downside, it's a minor nitpick, but I wish you weren't just racing against the Koopalings. I wish it was just like the normal Mario Kart roster.
They want you to
they
buy more carts eventually when they roll out. Like, here's the Luigi cart, here's the Donkey Kong cart.
Well, there is like the Luigi's
cart.
out
now, yeah.
Sure, but then here's the Dry Bones cart.
Yeah.
Here's
Here's the Dry Bones cart. It seems weird that these just don't take amiibos.
The Dry Bones
Right.
fandom is dying.
Sure.
Yeah. Jason was saying that it's a bummer that Mario or Luigi can't pop out of the cart, and you can't just insert whoever. I feel like they could have made a lot of these like pop outable, so you could just customize it and everything.
But then you wouldn't go spend another $100 on a whole new cart.
That's true. That's very true. For what it's worth, like this, it's pretty sturdy. Like it doesn't feel like a cheap toy, if anything. I ran this a bunch into my walls and like table legs.
Hell yeah! Did you ever run it off a counter?
Not a counter, because I was too scared and I needed to get the video done. But it's pretty, like I don't see any scuff marks, and like the wheels don't look like there's that much wear and tear. I was kind of like racing all day on Sunday with it. They do recommend it's for indoor use only, and I think it's because these parts aren't cheap enough or easy enough to replace in case you do like pop a wheel or like scuff up a wheel or whatever.
Yeah, just
right. It doesn't handle ramps that well. Like, so when you first plot out the course physically, you have to drive through it first. So you kind of are painting out a map of your course. And if at any point the car leaves the ground, it'll be like, hey, that's a no-no. Go back to the gate 1. You have to stay on the ground the whole time. But in the quick look, I wound up launching off a ramp a couple times, and that was pretty neat.
Are the tires rubber, or are they like a hard plastic?
They're rubber.
There's
some bounce.
Oh, wow,
yeah,
squishy.
Yeah. I feel like if you were going to do that for outdoor use, you would need like bigger tires. You would need shocks on it a little bit and all that sort of stuff. But
does it draw a full course? I mean, once you train it to like, here's the route and here's where my gates are and stuff. Like you see the kind of the guardrails along the whole course and all that stuff.
So you don't see the guardrails, but you see the road that you had driven through to paint the course.
Okay.
They also give these turn signals that'll denote like, oh hey, like this is where you're supposed to go. And I think they've released the PDFs now, so you could print a lot of that at home, just in case you mess up the turn signals here or you need more. What else? I have wooden floors at home, but I did ride it through some rugs and towels, and it was fine there. So if you have a carpet at home, I think you should still be okay.
You mentioned time trials. Is there like a friend leaderboard or something? Well, I guess no, because
No,
they're
'cause
not
you're
going to
making
be
your
able
own-
to use your courses.
Yeah.
Man, imagine though if you could like upload a course and I don't know, just like show somebody how to build it in their floor and stuff.
Totally. Yeah. It's
This feels like the Mario Maker thing of like, let's do the actual bare minimum for some sort of thing. That's a really cool idea, but then like not put the necessary time and R&D into, taking it to another level.
Yeah. They don't really I don't think there's any online multiplayer. It's all local, up to 4 folks. And as you build courses, because I set a time trial in like the first course I'd made, but as soon as I made a second one and tried to do another time trial, it's the game said like, hey, you're going to overwrite your existing record because it's technically a new course. So it's a weird issue of like, you can't like I guess save the original courses you made, because if you want to make a new race, you're going to overwrite everything from before.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's like that's the strength of it, but also like the limitation, right? It's like it's got to be this physical thing. So the minute you move that physical thing around, it's like, why keep the old stuff around?
Yeah.
Yeah, this thing seems like a super cool application of kind of existing technology, but also like super hamstrung by the cost and all the practical requirements of getting people together in the first place.
Yeah.
Not to mention not to mention the pandemic making that impossible on top of that.
Right.
And for me, it's like, okay, how, like, do you feel like those carts go fast enough? That was the thing watching the videos that they put out, where it's just like, it's cool that they did this, and obviously they slow it down, speed it up based on power-ups and all that, but just at no point did it seem like, oh man, I'm careening across this floor going fucking bonkers with this fast-moving RC car. Like, it always just looked like, okay, it's kind of moving. And if you're sitting there staring at your screen the entire time anyway, then it's really just the benefit of the camera on the car and not you going like, oh, look at that, it's RC car.
Yeah.
You're not driving it like an RC car because you have to look at the screen, right? Or do you think you could play it not looking at the screen?
I do feel like there's an aspect of like enjoying your vacation through your camera's viewfinder kind of thing to this, of like you made this expensive physical object that you're never going to look at.
It's like, that's the spectator mode, and like, okay, pass it off. Like,
though, that's the whole point. You could get an RC car. No one's stopping you from going and buying and getting an RC car.
That's right. No one is stopping me from going and getting a sick RC car.
The whole point is like, it's like you're playing Mario Kart in your house.
Fuck
right?
a car.
Mario Kart in the Switch.
What if you got an RC hovercraft?
What if I got a car? What if I just bought a car and went out for a drive?
I mean, you can do that right now.
All right then, Nintendo.
We'll be right back.
All right.
But I'll say like it did feel faster when I was just like watching the video feed of it versus watching the physical cart go through my place. Because when you're watching it, it's just like it looks like a little dinky cart going like, "Rrr." But when you're like listening to like the audio and everything, like you hear the boost sound effects and like the music's bumping. That I guess because of the scale, when you're that little, everything does look like it is going super fast.
Cool.
I'm trying to earn more trophies so I can see how fast it's going at 200cc, because I'm really interested to see that. In the Explorer mode, so that's when you're just like driving around your place, the cart wasn't going fast enough to go off a ramp, but when I had like a boost mushroom, I was able to like launch off it no problem. So I'm wondering if they'll actually go super duper fast, that it does look like it's zooming, not just in the game, but in real life.
Man.
I just wish the connectivity was just a little bit better.
Yeah, that sounds like the biggest bummer, honestly.
Yeah, there were some folks saying they were experiencing motion sickness watching the quick look, and I wonder if that's because like the Mario Kart itself and the Koopalings, they look great, but the actual video feed looks a little stuttery and a little grainy because of the nature of the camera.
And what's the field of view like on those? I didn't get a chance to watch the video. Like, how far ahead is it looking?
I can't. It looks like it's like a 12 millimeter lens, like a fisheye kind of, but not like fished out. Kind of like when you look through a GoPro, right? Like that field of view. Oh God, don't get me started on GoPros again. So like I'm kind of tempted to like see how people will like. I want to see if you could add another smaller camera to this, or like add something else to it to get that perspective. That being said, like when the connection was working great, it was incredibly responsive. Like it could stop on a dime, start on a dime also. But there were instances, and I don't know if that's because like my Switch was low on battery or the card itself was low on battery. But I'm interested to see like as I progress through the game if it'll be faster or like how fast it can get, how much people can push it.
The Bojangler,
Do you think you could
the Bojangler in the chat, which is a fantastic username, says that the 200cc mode, when you unlock it, is extremely fast, that it's actually hard to make turns in that mode. It's so fast. So I guess you can work your way up to some speed.
what if you mounted bottle rockets to it and then worked out like a servo or something? Yeah, like,
and then
that's
just
what I want.
put it on the steepest hill you can find outside and just go to town.
That's right.
The bummer part with the course making is that you have to go into the full loop. So after you hit gate 4, you have to get back to gate 1, and my dumb butt kept making like too tight of a turn to get back to gate 1. So I feel like your course making kind of has to resemble like a good circle or a good oval rather than like a messed up shape that I was making. I wish though, like playing with this now in my own house makes me think that we would have a hard time playing with this in the studio, because I'm imagining us starting in the studio, maybe going to like where the bullpen is, or like trying to go around the whole floor, but it doesn't seem like the range is good enough to do that.
And it seems like there's so much stuff in the air that already messes with like connectivity issues that it would be probably unusable.
Yeah, I'm wondering, maybe it's because like I had too much Wi-Fi interference. If the card is using
5G,
the Switch
man,
Wi-Fi,
5G takes another.
Is that 5G? Because like I have one of those Wi-Fi meshes in my place, so I'm wondering like, was that causing an interference at all? Is the capture equipment causing an interference? I haven't played with it enough in handheld mode to see like a major difference or not. But I mean, like that being said, it's really cool, but it's one of those things of like, man, is this something you're gonna get for your kid or your nephew, niece, and they're gonna have a blast with it for a day? But then because of how much work it takes to build out the course, clear up enough space.
It's the Labo syndrome.
It's the Labo syndrome.
Like the Labo thing where it's like, once it's all together, you're like, oh, wow, cool. Do it once and then be like, cool. Okay,
I think the thing I would run into, I feel like it like doing this would be, okay, I'll plot out the course and now I've got to drive the course, and then I would drive it and it'd be like, all right, I drove it already. I don't want to race on it now. Like, I don't like, okay, I already did the thing.
I mean, that's time trial. That's literally Trackmania, is racing on the same course a million times.
Yeah, but that's good.
Jan, what happened?
My autofocus was messed up. It's like, it's such a high barrier to entry that I'm kind of curious if Nintendo will like sell standalone carts without the cardboard gates at a reduced price, perhaps. Like, hey, here's like the Toad cart, and he's only $60 or $70 versus like
if the gates are really cardboard, then because you print out your own gates, right? I think they did the Labo thing of like, hey, here's how to make your own. So
man, I had fucking Labo. Holy shit! I had not thought about the word Labo since I could not tell you.
People have so much cardboard in their house right now that it'd be the perfect time for Labo.
Yeah, yeah. But this is definitely like one of those things of like, well, if someone could come over to my place, I'd show them. Like, hey, look at this cool thing. Like, when you'd have like PSVR or like easy VR system to share.
Like if I was 12 and I could have friends over, like I could imagine doing this with like 5 different people, just building the course over and over and over again with like, I mean, I'd get kind of sick of it, but like somebody else experiencing it for the first time seems cool enough to kind of keep interest going.
Yeah.
And then
like,
who knows,
I feel
maybe
like
they buy it.
Alone, it's more like, okay, how sick can these jumps get? Like how much peril can I put this car into without breaking it? Or whoops, I broke it. Like that. I feel like that's the escalation of just like, okay, we're gonna attach a bunch of sparklers to it and then drive around and see how it goes.
Like I kind of want to set up my dining room table to be a course. If I don't think it's big enough, but I can just I feel like that'd be super fun if you had 3 other carts. And if you fall off the table, you're just done.
What is this called again?
Mario Kart Live Home Circuit.
Thank you.
There you go.
It's really neat. I'm gonna try and put more time into it to see how fast we can make this card go. And
you should make you should get some real tight plastic wrap around and make a rainbow road suspended in the middle of the kitchen.
Oh shit, that would be good. Oh, from counter to counter.
Yeah.
Oh man. Someone mentioned this on the quick look, but it'd be really neat if the cart started auto driving itself after you finish a race and just brought you back to game one.
Yeah,
because the AI follows like the tracks pretty well.
That's the Mario Kart style.
Yeah,
they should have done that.
Oh man,
yeah, that's neat.
I want to see if it can handle a loop. If I can go fast enough, I want to build a loop.
Yeah.
Where'd your chair go?
It's right here.
There it is.
Oh, you mean my gamer chair that I got and then still figuring out what all the knobs do?
Okay. All right. Good to know.
It's right
Secret
here.
lab.
Good to know. Yeah, man. This chair became a secret for a second there, for sure. Jeff, I bought Streets of Kamurocho.
Yeah.
But I did not buy Golden Axe or Endless Zone or any of those other freebies.
Or Armor, where there was a fourth one as well.
The tank game. Did I miss out?
No, it's fun. No, I mean, so I've not played a couple of them, but so yeah, Sega is having its like 60th anniversary, and they're doing a big old blowout thing on Steam, and as a part of that, they're like,
it's gone.
well, I think part of it is going for 60 days. I think this is just I thought this was just the
as of last night,
this weekend or whatever.
Yeah, the games are no longer available. You can't get any.
Right.
The store
no, but I mean, there's like a hey, now this franchise is on sale, or give us your email address and we'll give you knights because we hate you, or whatever it is. And yeah, so they put out a handful of these little free things for a couple of days here, and it was interesting, like, oh, okay, Sega celebrating its anniversary, and they put out these weird little game. So Streets of Kamurocho is a Yakuza themed
Streets of
Rage game.
Yes.
So
it's Yakuza 6.
Yeah.
Wait, no, fuck, because now it's not a beat 'em up anymore.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And it's really fun that they did this. It's really fun that it's free, but it is like a widescreen recreation of stage 1 of Streets of Rage 2 with different sprites over the top of it, and you fight your way through it. And then it loops back and starts you at the start of stage 1 again. And you're like, okay, like these aren't, I guess point being is these are not full games. These are interesting little curiosities that you fire up once for 15 minutes, go like, oh, yeah, look at that. They made it look like the Yakuza guy, but it still talks like Streets of Rage samples when you hit it.
To be clear, I have zero interest in actually playing these. I'm just mad that I missed them.
Absolutely.
I wish I had them because I don't.
You're free without them, Brad. Just they're bad. You don't need them in your life.
I take it back. I did want to see what a modern take on Fantasy Zone was.
Yeah, so that I haven't fired that up. Endless Zone is
Endless Zone is a Fantasy Zone game from the creators of Endless Space.
And there's one that just looks like a weird like recreation of Armor Attack, the old Vector arcade game that was not a Sega game, which is weird, but yeah, so Streets of Kamurocho, it's clever. You look at it and go like, ah, neat. And then Golden Axe is the other one I played, and that is a prototype of the Golden Axe game that they were trying to make about a decade ago, I guess. Is that like they put out some lore around where this build came from, and then had to walk that back because the language in it
it's a bit flip.
Okay, I'm going to say this because I can say this. It's my job to say this. It's janky. But when Sega says it's janky, which is what they said, the developers were like, "Hey, fuck, man! I busted my ass working on this thing. You canceled, you assholes."
Yes, one of the developers posted a long thread on Twitter going like, "Hey, this prototype was like a 2-week death march that I almost killed myself over, and kind of got shit on by the management a bunch for."
Yeah,
and this sucks for you guys to just go on Steam and like talk shit about this work that I made under extreme duress.
Right. There's an elegant way to say like we understand that there's some issues with the game.
And they like Sega went ahead and removed that stuff and apologized. So like, you're right. It's fucked.
It's entirely possible whoever at Sega posted that stuff on Steam had no idea about the history of the prototype. But,
I would say it is highly likely. But I guess they took this prototype and polished it up to a point where it would run on a modern PC. And you could play it. It is like a kind of a 1-level vertical slice of you playing as the dude with the sword
Wait.
Though I guess if you have two controllers, it doesn't have the character select. I mean, this is a very stripped down thing.
Oh yeah,
it is
sure.
not.
I just why if you only had one character, why wouldn't you start with the dwarf?
Well, so I think you can play because the dwarf is always viewed as like the third selectable character in that game. It's the guy and the lady, and I bet if I had a second controller hooked up and I hit start on it, it would give me the lady.
Maybe this
or
is
it would give me, or it would just both be the dude because they didn't make two.
Maybe this is a
models,
controversial position, but the dwarf is the only character in Golden Axe.
I like the lady.
The dwarf is
She's
the only
cool.
character in Golden Axe.
Cool lady.
Yeah.
They don't have the
Dwarf
reach.
is the only one I remember.
The other two characters have got miserably short reach compared to the dwarf. It's just
Yeah, but like he's a little guy. You know, I don't want to be a little guy. I want to be a big lady.
Yeah. So you can play as Axe Battler, the guy with the sword.
to be fair, Axe Battler isn't. I don't know why
He doesn't even have an axe.
It never clicked for me that the guy named Axe Battler uses a sword. That's
Maybe he just sprays himself with axe.
He's battling people with axes.
yeah.
It is called
Golden
Golden
Okay,
Axe,
sure,
too.
sure.
Oh,
Like
it's his
death
game?
equals adder, for example.
Are we to believe that he is the like protagonist because it is called Golden Axe and his name is Axe Battler?
Yes, he is the Golden Axe. He always was.
Gilius
No.
Thunderhead.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
the
This,
dwarf?
do
Yeah,
your
okay,
best
Brad,
to
you
not
can
learn
play
the
as
names of the
Gilius.
playable characters in Golden Axe. It's not going to help. Just know that that guy's named Death Adder. That's sick, and then don't know anything else about Golden Axe. It is a polygonal game. You walk to the right, you fight dudes. They put in 2 attack buttons instead of 1, but it still has a running attack. It still has a lot of the basic attacks that Golden Axe had originally, and it feels bad. Like if I was going off of that prototype and trying to decide, is this a thing we want to keep spending money on? I would say absolutely not. The idea of doing a traditional beat 'em up at all in that time frame is already kind of a risky move. And then looking at that, you just go like, yeah, I absolutely see why they canceled this. It just doesn't seem like the sort of thing that no one would be happy with that. And again, that's just based off apparently a couple weeks or however much work it was or whatever. And if they got it to all, its end point, maybe it would have been something different, but I doubt it. When you think about that era of Sega and some of the stuff some of the choices they were making, I just don't have faith that Sega of that time would have done right by those games. And then I felt that way the last time when there were a lot of rumors about like, oh, they're going to do Streets of Rage for Dreamcast. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. Like even in that era, 10 years before that or whatever it was still this feeling of just like, nah, you kind of need to let that stuff go. You're just not equipped to do it right now.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. It's funny that they called it Golden Axed and they updated the title screen to reflect that when you launch it. But it's an interesting curiosity. It's cool that it's out there. But don't.
But you can't get it. So
you might be able to hack your way into it a little bit. I don't actually know.
That may be. I'm going to investigate that during the break. Actually,
okay.
I've received a tip that it may be possible.
Okay. Well. So yeah, it's cool that they did that stuff, but none of them are things that you're just like, oh, what an amazing treat. You look at it and go like, oh, that's neat. That's fun that they did this. Okay. Cool. I'm gonna uninstall this and never look at it ever again. And that's fine.
I'll probably never even install them if I do manage to somehow add the licenses to my account. I just want to know that I have the
great
option of doing so.
Great.
Yes. Ben?
what's up?
Phasmophobia?
Oh boy.
You wrote down Phasmophobia here as a game you would like to talk about.
Yeah. Yes, I do. I was just gonna talk. I thought you were prompting me to talk about Hades because I don't know.
If you want to talk about Hades first, that's fine. They're both on the agenda. Let's say.
Well, I just wanted to say. So,
which one do you like more?
Well, I mean, Hades is arguably the best run-based video game I've ever played.
Okay.
Phantasmophobia accurately simulates hunting a ghost, so I'm going to go with Hades.
Wait, how many real-life ghosts have you hunted to be able to say that it's accurate?
Several. I've told this story on the podcast before about how I was part of Spirit, the Sonoma Paranormal Investigative RIT, whatever the rest of the letters stood for.
Respectable intelligence
team.
Yeah.
What?
Well, what I was going to say is, in preparation for my 31st birthday, I threw out my back last week.
Yeah,
cool.
Woo, I was moving 2 couches Because the first couch
You should do one at a time.
So here's the problem is we got a couch and it fucked up my back because it was a bad couch. And I'm like, I got to get rid of this bad couch. And then my back was already fucked up and I picked up the couch and was just like, I need to go lie down now. So I basically spent like a week on my back holding my Switch up like this and playing Hades. And I beat it. I beat Hades.
How many times?
I was going to say
what is
I beat Hades. I rolled credits in Hades.
All right. So last night I completed a run for the first time, and
congratulations. What was your weapon?
The bow. I've had good bow runs before, but I hadn't really been using it, and I just had a really lucky bow run and got like I had not been to the fucking the I guess Styx is the temple, the area where you have to find.
It's kind of a labyrinth. You're like
the labyrinthy kind of like I had not been there before, and I just had a fucking really good run and cleared all that, and then ended up finishing it, and was really touched by the story stuff. I had forgotten why Zagreus was doing what he was doing.
Yep.
Until you kind of get closer to the end, and he kind of brings it up a couple of times. Like, oh right, that's why this story is happening at all. And I thought that all that stuff was really touching and also really smart about how you write story around a game that is meant to be played repeatedly, which I know people have said that before as they've beaten it. And I agree wholeheartedly. It is
I think
really well done.
That. I think Greg and the associated team managed to like not only be like, how do we make a roguelite that has a good story? They looked at it and said, how do we use this to our advantage and use the idea of a run-based video game and have the story built around that? Because like Void Bastards, I've shouted out as being another funny roguelite, and having a good story. But basically it's a story that's like, here's the start of it. There's intermittent parts with cutscenes when you reach certain objectives, and there's an end. But Hades takes the idea and runs with it, and it's like, okay, from a gameplay perspective, you're respawning because you're a god, or you're the son of a god, or whatever, and you're immortal, and you just keep going back. So that's why the runs make sense from a gameplay perspective. And then, okay, well, what would that mean for the story? And so because you finished it once, you kind of understand. And I'm gonna avoid spoilers here, but basically, you understand why I was so excited about getting back into it and completing more runs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just from a story perspective, they set you up with this kind of thread to kind of be like, well, the game's not, Zagreus' story is not over after you escape Hades.
Yeah. I think that's neat, and it's a really good carrot on a stick. I think the stuff they have done makes you want to do it again. On top of that, where you're like, okay, no, I want to see more of this because of how well done it is.
And so when you do it a certain number of times, I don't even know the exact number. I think it's around 10. You keep getting different ending cutscenes that kind of make sense with each other. Yeah. And then basically there is one quote unquote final encounter when you completed your whateverth run that kind of really wraps the story. And it's still, obviously I still have dozens of upgrades I could get, spend of the gems, making the hall look better, giving ambrosia to people to increase the relationship level and stuff like that. Obviously, there's still a ton of room to grow in that regard, but it's a story with a very satisfying conclusion. And I think that if we are going to talk about video games and perhaps talk about which one is the best of the year, I would strongly urge everyone out there, because we're going to talk spoilers pretty openly, but I would urge anyone out there who's beaten it a few times to get through that 10 clear and just see what it's all about.
I'm told by Chad is the one that told me there's an epilogue even after what you've seen. There's more stuff.
Totally, yeah. And I got one clear after that, and I kind of got something, and it was like, I feel like it's going to be similar to this from here on out. There's, other than just kind of talking to the characters more, there's not a lot more story to be uncovered.
Okay, if I'm really bad at this game, what kind of build should I be shooting for to have the most streamlined process?
If you are really bad at the game, go into the options and turn on the God mode thing, because it seems like they've done a really good job at finding ways to tune the difficulty one way or the other. Because you can kind of tune it down there, but also once you have one successful run, it unlocks a full system of customizable options that you can use to make it more difficult. Whether that's, hey, let's put way more enemies into each encounter,
more money,
less money, all that sort of stuff. So you can really, it's very tunable past that point, and they have rewards for kind of, tuning it more difficult if that's your thing. But that option they have in there, I think that's, I think it's smart of them. Like Hades is not a hyper difficult game. Obviously, like some run-based games are fucked and crushing and all this other stuff. And I think there are parts of this game that, you have to wrap your mind around to get better at. I'm not just saying it's like simple, but it's very attainable. And I think that's smart because it's a story worth seeing. And if they had a game that was like back-breakingly difficult out of the gate, I think you would lose a lot of players and not have them actually see all the craft that went into the later stuff.
Yeah, like honestly, my first game with Hades, I got to like the 3rd level, and I was just like, okay, I get it. And then not too long, like I had that first world pretty much down. Like they do a really good job of kind of like steadily increasing the difficulty. Like the 3rd boss is a real motherfucker when you get to him for the first time, because like you're fighting 2 bosses all of a sudden, and you're just like, everything I knew about fighting a boss in this game is completely out the window, because you have to keep track of 2 things at once. And it just like, I've heard like people say like that was harder for them than beating Hades for the first time. But like generally I would say, just like, if I had a tip to say for people looking for help, is like, just pick whatever weapon has the bonus darkness attached to it over and over again. Keep going for that. Keep unlocking that mirror, because like the bottom tier upgrades that you unlock after a while with the keys just really, really make the game a lot more manageable. Getting 3 death defiances is really helpful, like 3 extra lives.
Yeah, I was just min-maxing that to try to get that done before anything else.
That's super clutch. And it teaches you how to use all the weapons, so you can really find, like, I've changed my opinions about like how much I like or dislike certain weapons in that game 5 or 6 times, just by like being like, oh, I found a build with the shield that's bonkers, and now the shield is my favorite weapon. And oh, actually the gun I've upgraded in a certain way that like I can always clear a gun run and stuff like that.
It's just 10 clears overall, right? Not 10 clears like consecutively without dying or something like that?
No.
Okay.
I had a streak of 5, I think, at one point. I was on Twitter, fucking Matty Thorson, the creator of Towerfall and Celeste, had a 39 streak going. I was just like,
boy,
shit, they're good at this game. Like, some people out there are just demolishing this game, and it's really entertaining to see. There was like a 6.5 minute speed run. Did you guys see that?
Oh, no. Wow.
Oh my God.
Jeez.
It was all cast. It was like a super strong, like, crit, the like Artemis cast that shoots the little crit arrow out. It was just doing like 600 damage, and they were just shooting 3 of them at a time. It was insane.
That sounds fun.
Yeah. It is a good game. Phasmophobia. It's also a good game.
Yeah. When it works.
When it works.
Yeah.
Phasmophobia. I legit was 1 click away from buying Phasmophobia, the FMV game.
Phantasmagoria, you mean?
Phantasmagoria, thank you. That we have an entire playthrough through on giantbomb.com. You can go watch.
The Roberta Williams opus.
But
Phasmophobia.
Phasmophobia. Do you guys know anything about this game?
Is it?
You talk to ghosts, or you make noise and ghosts don't like it.
I had your stream on for just a minute, and it looked like some kind of multiplayer ghost detective shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd say it's a ghost hunting simulator, basically, and it kind of blends the scientific side of it with like your EMF readers, your sound meters,
your thermometers,
unbelievable
thermometers, with the occult stuff like salt and Ouija boards and candles and stuff like that. And kind of basically the flow of it, and Jan, you can step in here if I'm missing something. You go to a location, like a house or a school or something. Teams of 4. And you grab your gear. You can call like 3 pieces of gear. And the whiteboard in the van, you start out in like a cool, not so cool, pretty
standard,
pretty standard van, like this just kind of ghost hunting van. And the whiteboard will be like, okay, get a photo of ghost activity, get a
Dirty
picture
water.
of dirty water. Don't know what that means.
Yeah.
And then
I
the
can get
ghost
you dirty
name,
water right now.
If you can get me a picture of dirty water, that would get me like $40 for my next job. And it'll tell you like the ghost's name is Roberta Williams, and she will respond to one person at a time.
Or a group.
Yeah. And then you go out, and basically the flow of how we were doing it, there's different ways to do it, but the ghost is always going to be in a cold setting, or the ghost makes it cold.
Mm-hmm.
So you like use your temperature gun and kind of poke around and look for the room that has the low temperature. You get in the room, and I should say it uses proximity
chat.
Proximity chat.
Yeah.
So, if I'm talking to Jan from one side of the room to the other, he can barely hear me. But if I'm up next to him, he can hear me. There's also walkie-talkies, so you could push to talk on your walkie so everyone can hear you.
Mm-hmm.
But the ghosts can hear you.
Yeah.
And Jan, you had the roughest experience. Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah. This part's real neat because the game encourages you to use the in-game audio chat because the proximity stuff, but also the ghost is like kind of actively listening for you. On our first hunt, I was a little bit overzealous and was thinking the ghost wouldn't get me. And it was a ghost that targets single players. So Ben and I were headed outside of the house, but because you move, the walking speed is just so slow.
We did what you should definitely do, which was split up into 2 pairs instead of a group of 4.
Yeah. Ben was walking a little bit ahead of me, and then like I kind of got lost in like my little gadgets that the ghost wound up killing me because I guess Ben and I were just yelling at each other going down the stairs, and I was also yelling into my walkie-talkie.
Like the doors started opening and closing, and the lights were coming on and off. Spooky shit started going on. And so
can I ask? Yeah. No. Do all the ghosts kill you, or are there some that slime you or suck you off, or like what? What else can a ghost do? Is there?
I think in VR they might suck you off, but I was playing outside of VR.
Does this have VR support?
I'll see you later.
It does.
Oh, it does.
Oh, it does
for sure.
Huh?
I think you might. Oh,
Jeff has jacked in.
Yeah.
He's finding the ghosts.
Don't jack in during work calls.
Like a ghost that shoots card catalog cards at you, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think they're all. I've only died. And Jan, when you died, did you get like strung up in a weird flesh prison?
Yeah,
the ghost, every day, baby.
The ghost grabbed me from behind and then brought me underneath, and then I was in purgatory for a bit. But then I started walking around the house, and the house was mad foggy.
Right, because when you die, you're not dead. Of course, you're a ghost.
I had a real existential crisis by myself as a ghost. I don't think I'd be good as a ghost.
I could see it.
And that first game was extra weird because for some reason Jan was the only person I could hear, so I would have to talk to Jan, to Vinny and Abby, but then Jan died, and so I'm just screaming to Vinny and Abby like, I think Jan's dead. Where are you? Please help me.
The jankiness makes the game really endearing, I guess.
Yeah. I feel like it's one of those games where you need to have a group of friends that you're willing to like really go for it with.
Yeah.
Like it's not a fun video game to play, quote unquote.
Sure.
Moving around sucks. Placing objects is hard. Like it's really hard to set something down. Like you'll have to set a camera down in the corner of the room so you can watch the thermal version of it back in the van. But like you just kind of keep dropping it and it lands on its face and you have to pick it back up and set it down. There's no map. Like the navigation is really tough, but that's kind of on purpose, because they want you to be disoriented. But like the act of playing it with other people is fun. Getting into it, pretending you're a ghost hunter.
I think where we wound up near the end of the play date, that we kind of had everything down to a science, that the game was just not as challenging anymore. And I don't know if other levels stuff, or the higher you go, the more difficult the ghost encounters will be.
I will
we kind of had
there
it
is
down
a
to a
leveling
science
system. We're pretty low level.
I was gonna ask, does it like mix up the levels or randomize stuff like a Left 4 Dead type thing, or they're not just like fixed scenarios, right? Okay.
Yeah, because like we started out in a house, and then by the end we were in a whole abandoned like psych ward.
Mm-hmm.
It's early access, right?
Early access, $13.99, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So if you want to get into ghost hunting, it's really cheap.
Does it seem like it would be less janky? Does it seem like a game that was built for VR that you are playing not in VR and that's why it's janky?
I've heard it's like pretty good in VR, so I would believe that it was maybe VR focused. But it's not one of those like games where you're like, this is impossible not in VR.
Right.
Yeah.
That sounds cool. Playdate up on the site? That's what it's called.
Playdate
right?
is up on the site.
Yeah, you guys.
Abby
We're
and
gonna
Vinny
play
did
some
a,
more at some point.
Yeah, that sounds
eventually.
neat.
Yeah, Abby and Vinny also did a 6 Crazy Frights with it.
Okay.
It's real neat.
Has anybody streamed it in VR yet on this website?
No.
I would almost be tempted to give that a shot, except that
Oh, I would love that.
streaming in
Brad will
VR is
support you.
pretty tough, it turns out. But
Brad, Ben, and I are expert ghost hunters now.
might be doable at some point.
Jan
some
went into this
ideas.
not knowing his EMF reader from his
Oh,
that's another thing.
No, I meant
EVF.
I meant run making the stream work with the headset on is the hard part, not the game.
Oh yes, no, yeah, that's definitely So that's I set up all the VR stuff on this other PC that can run to this streaming PC that then can NDI to the one that's actually streaming it out, and then by distributing it across 3 personal computers, it is slightly easier to do. Slightly.
Okay.
Sounds like more steps for a ghost to get involved to me. I don't know.
Oh yeah, no. I let a ghost work the T-bar, the ghostly T-bar to handle transitions and such.
They wanted retribution.
Yeah, no, definitely. It was this, the SmackDown hacker came in and set up my streaming setup, and it's been pretty good.
Don't let a ghost work your streaming setup.
I think I could handle a real ghost hunt now.
They're like, I will say, it's basically what we were doing in Phasmophobia, except nothing happens instead of a ghost coming.
Cool.
I think I would actively antagonize a ghost now. Or a demon spirit. I think I'd be fine.
That's bold of you.
Yeah.
But you see,
Do you think there's a good way to turn this into a money-making operation by turning it into a popular, like, reality-esque television show wherein you go to warehouses and stuff and point temperature guns at things and go, ooh.
Oh, 100%. And then we'd start
Okay.
selling our own branded equipment.
Right.
Great. Perfect.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I
Run
would
your
make
own ghost hunt.
I would make like holy boxing gloves that also have like a thermometer in them that you could punch a ghost with. You know? Think
Yeah,
about that.
I like
All the
it.
people
Yeah.
that are being terrorized by ghosts.
Totally.
They
Just hit
buy
'em.
our giant
Spectral
bomb ghost
gloves.
gloves.
Yep.
Yeah.
I would make a salt that I would say is from like the what's the sea that everyone floats in?
the Dead Sea.
The Dead Sea. I'll say like, oh, this is Dead Sea salt, but really it's just like dead sea salt.
Oh,
But I can charge more for it.
Got 'em.
And we put our faces on it.
I was going to make a Polaroid camera that takes pictures, but it shows ghosts. And I guess you just take the picture and you're just like, well, no ghost here, I guess.
As it's coming out, there's a little thing that just puts a sticker of a ghost on
exactly.
it.
Like a little orb.
all right, you're gonna save the rest of these ideas.
Okay.
Done.
$1 billion ideas. All right, video games.
Oh, do you think I could use the Mario Kart cart to hunt ghosts?
Yes.
Sure.
If you modified the camera to view a different visual spectrum,
Yes.
and also if the ghosts were booze.
If you replace that thing with a haunted lens, then yes.
Okay.
Just
Easy peasy.
make sure that their backs are to you. It's the only way.
Okay.
It's the only way.
Very
to-
important.
Yeah. All right. We need to take a break. So we're going to do that right now. And then come back with some news and some other stuff. We'll see you in just a minute. Stay tuned. Hey, Jan, buddy.
Help!
You got-
Mario,
wake
wake up!
Oh.
Fell asleep at the wheel.
What's going on over there?
no.
What's
That's not safe.
this guy's?
It's not safe.
This guy's about to this runaway plumber is about to bulldoze your apartment, man. You need to.
Do you think
Yeah.
he would design the car in a way that it's not blowing smoke into his face as he drives?
Yeah, you think a lot of things, but Mario.
Maybe
No,
like
that's,
Mario
that's
leans
the
back.
best e-liquid. It's his favorite scent of his favorite
God.
flavor of e-liquid.
Oh, alien pissed.
Yeah, alien piss, the sickest clouds that he can fucking rip. Like when you saw those clouds in World 8 of Super Mario Brothers 2, and you were like, "Why are this such a weird color?" It's because it's alien piss.
That's yep.
Oh. Is it the same alien piss that they made the bushes out of?
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Except it's the PG VG split is 30-70 one way, and then they swap it.
Oh yeah, it's smart. That saves a lot of space.
Of course, yeah.
Mario's kind of a weird dude. It turns out.
Very weird, dude.
Yeah.
News. Let's talk about it.
It's just in Mario's here.
Is
Is this the biggest guest we've ever had?
It's a him.
And he heard you say his name. Look at him.
Hi, Mario.
Oh no, he's not having your
Didn't
shit
care
anymore. That's
Yeah.
that's
Why is All Stars 2 such a disappointment? But
Ooh.
oh,
Oh, wow. He gave you a look.
he did.
I mean, it didn't make a lot of news at the time, but he sold his name to Nintendo some years ago in a Tom Clancy-esque fashion, so he doesn't actually have much say.
I'm confused about the naming for this. So is this a Mario Kart or is this a Mario Kart?
This
What?
is Mario's Mario Kart.
Okay, so if I had the Luigi one, it would be Luigi's Mario Kart.
Luigi Mario's Mario
Right,
Kart.
it's the Mario family we're talking about here, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. If Donkey Kong had one, it'd be Donkey Kong's Mario Kart.
Mario Kart.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
Mario runs it's like, you would get a Toyota.
Right.
You
Okay.
get a Mario. It's a Mario.
It's
It's
a
their slogan.
It's a family business.
If I had a John Deere tractor, it'd be Jan's John Deere tractor.
Exactly.
Okay. Good. Glad we got this.
All right. Let's talk about some news. Pretty light week here in the new console goings on. Well, that's not true. There's a few things to talk about here.
There's some stuff.
Kotaku did an interview with one Phil Spencer, Stephen Totillo in particular. Got to sit down and talk to Phil Spencer for a little bit. Not a lot of like major kind of headline making stuff that came out of this, but he did kind of double down on the idea that Bethesda games are going to be exclusive.
Yeah,
going forward. It was a pretty long-winded answer that didn't like come out and say it, but also kind of came out and said it.
Right. Yeah. I guess the quote is, the question is it possible to recoup a $7.5 billion investment if you don't sell Elder Scrolls 6 on a PlayStation? And his response was yes. And then he elaborated from there to break it down further. But like, I think we said when this happened is just like, it's hard to know because we don't really see all the numbers in that stuff or what their play is as far as Game Pass with regards to like, hey, if you sell it elsewhere, but it's part of a subscription on the Xbox service, that's still kind of an ad for your subscription service if you are putting it out on other platforms for $60 or $70. But if they don't need to do that, then why would they? I think that's the other part of this is people saying like that they expect or feel like they deserve getting those games on other platforms. Like at the end of the day, this is a business. Be mad at Bethesda for selling. Be mad at the leadership of Bethesda for selling to a console manufacturer if you're going to do that, I think.
That's something I was thinking about recently. Like if I had a chance to ask Phil Spencer a question, and granted, there's every possibility he would not answer something like this, but I would love to know who approached whom in that situation. Like,
was Bethesda kind of looking to sell?
Right. Like have they been out there courting potential suitors, or did Microsoft reach out to them because they were looking to make a strategic acquisition? Like, I would be really curious to know that. Somebody, I think it was Ryan McCaffrey from IGN that made this point on Twitter. I'm pretty sure it was him, and that I have kind of a hard time disagreeing with. It was kind of an interesting point that if the tables were turned and it had been Sony that bought a Bethesda or something like that, like there wouldn't even be a question of whether those games were going to become exclusives or not. Like, of course they would, and like nobody would even be blinking an eye at that possibility. So. Like, I guess that's just a consequence of like the different expectations that Microsoft has set up around having an ecosystem rather than like a closed system.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And
especially how hard Sony has leaned into like being the Sony games are the prestige games, and it's all about these prestige games, right? It's other things that could fold into that,
right?
And so like Deathloop and what's the Ghostwire Tokyo will still come to PS5 because those deals are in place. They'll honor those deals.
Oh, God, that is a Bethesda game, isn't it? goes
Yeah,
for it.
and then
Right.
on the other end of that, it seems like that won't happen. And yeah, that's I think we talked about it when the Luna stuff got announced. I guess Amazon Luna invites are starting to go out.
Huh.
I saw a post a picture of the invite on Twitter that people are getting emailed about Luna in some cases, but eventually this becomes a content fight, and I think I really want to see how Sony's going to handle that as that heats up. If they're going to kind of stick to their guns and say, well, we make our own best content, and or and just kind of lean into their first party stuff even more, or if they will get into, or if they will have to get into some kind of acquisitions mode or something like that. There was, an analyst. There was I think it was a Variety story yesterday that was kind of saying like, or maybe it was a Deadline. Anyway, it was basically saying like, hey, this seems like it's about to become like an M&A fight, like just mergers and acquisitions and stuff, like through the pandemic, through all this other stuff that like the the gaming sector is kind of ready to consolidate in a lot of ways, because you've got these massive players. The $7.5 billion for Bethesda seems like a fucking gigantic amount of money.
Yeah, it's insane.
But if you're Microsoft, or if you're Google, or if you're Amazon, or you're Apple, or of these companies that are all about to get looked into for antitrust in one way or another, they have the money for that. And so then you look at everyone else on the table and go like, okay, well, does someone eventually just go try to buy EA and so up sports? Does someone try to go, does someone go try to buy 2K and just say like, well, we got Grand Theft Auto now and it's only available on Amazon Luna, or whatever. Like, that is where I could see this heading that way, and I don't necessarily think that's going to be a great thing for consumers if too many more of these acquisitions happen. I think you end up in that weird fight of just like, well, did you get Netflix or did you get Amazon Prime?
Yeah, I was going to say, especially in a situation where like Stadia and xCloud and Luna are kind of all the same product. If you have to suddenly maintain a subscription to all of those to play all the stuff you want, that's not great.
That gets weird fast.
Yeah.
That gets ugly fast. And like also like I think if things go in that direction, well, we're counting on a few different things. We're counting on the public being like amenable to streaming games over owning games and running them locally, which I think Netflix has softened up the mainstream audience for that already. That I don't see that as being a huge problem with people who aren't already, who don't care. Like, people who are already playing games and all the other stuff, they know the difference. They care. But once you get to that wider thing, it's like, like they're not gonna fight that fight. And so does Sony get left out in the cold on that by sticking to this very rigid, rigid for now, like, but if you look at Sony's strategy, it is, we are putting out the PlayStation 5. It runs the majority of your PlayStation 4 games, and it will run PlayStation 5 games. You should get one.
Like a video game console, kind of.
Right, yeah, exactly. And they've got PlayStation Now, and they dabble in that stuff, but not the way these other companies are doing.
Yeah.
And I think that we thought, as Microsoft kind of got further and further into all this xCloud stuff, and as Stadia was happening, and as you heard the rumors about Amazon, I think there was that feeling of just like, really seems like Sony must have something up their sleeve. And the answer was no. They kind of, if they do, they have not rolled that sleeve up yet. I'm sure they're like thinking about that as a potential future. And Nintendo's got a handheld. It's a different strategy completely. Like I don't think that's, I don't think Nintendo is in any real danger with that stuff, because they're just a fundamentally different strategy.
Right.
And
Phil Spencer spoke to that in this interview. Like, it sounds like that's kind of still on the table, that Nintendo could become a partner in what Microsoft is doing if they're inclined to do so.
Sure.
But he's still out there saying like, hey, I would want the entire Xbox ecosystem to be available on another competing platform that I won't name, but it's very clear what people are talking about there. So unless Nintendo is willing to go all the way with that, that may not happen. But
I think you're totally right, Jeff. I think that in the end, this is just a bad for consumer. This is a move that
I'm trying to like work it out like long term. Like, what does this look like as if it does become that fight of like, oh well, we've got to acquire this.
Like, okay, I've got Hulu my mom has Netflix, my cousin's got Disney, so I can kind of like, but it's not going to work. Like, you can't just share passwords for the consoles like that. I mean, and the services even, like, it's worse than that sort of spread, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, potentially. I mean, you could.
It has the potential to be, yes.
Yeah. But yeah, like if that ends up becoming how this stuff goes, that's I'm trying to work through it. Like, is there a good outcome there? If in a world where suddenly all the major game publishers have been acquired by one of these like streaming platform providers or something like that, whether it's Microsoft, who, like, I think Microsoft is like in the friendliest position right now because they still are selling consoles in traditional ways and all that other stuff. Like, you can still kind of like have it your way.
And they arguably have the most robust product with Game Pass.
Yes.
Like, if we're looking at all these services compared to each other, I think Game Pass is by far the best value.
Definitely. I mean, Stadia is like, like the free Stadia Pro games are not like, that offering is not enough on its own, and you still have to buy the game separately. Amazon's going for that pure
Origin
route, but it'll be
multiple or whatever.
And all that stuff. Yeah, EA is doing whatever EA does. That's a Luna channel in the making right there. Yeah, so I don't know, like that. I wonder how that'll go. How does the next 5 years look? How do the next 10 years look for this sort of stuff? If that becomes the norm of like, okay, we're going to start going out and buying all of these kind of old school, classic, publishers and developers that are out there, and then put them under one roof. And then who knows how that goes? Like, does Google get to a point where they've gone out and acquired EA, or they've acquired a Take-Two or something like that, and then they're like, we don't believe in games anymore, and then suddenly all that shit's just gone? Like, what?
Oh, well, I mean, didn't the Justice Department just file antitrust action against Google this morning? So we'll see. Yeah, we'll see where that stuff goes.
Yeah, we'll see how all that ends up. I mean, that could definitely throw some monkey wrenches into some of those plans. But yeah, man, it's weird.
Yeah, strange stuff going on. I mean, he spoke to another topic related to all their xCloud streaming stuff. Somebody's at the door. Something that we've speculated about off and on this podcast, which is the idea of getting Xbox One support for xCloud that would let you play Series X games in a streaming fashion without actually having to buy new hardware. He flat out says they are working toward that. He says, when we think about Xbox One, we think it could be a good way for us to bridge generations and be able to let people play those games, talking about Series X games. I don't think it's years off. It's just work to get done. We know how to do it. So yeah, it sounds like that is happening. Which, I mean, if you're happy playing games over a streaming connection, keep your box. Just subscribe to Game Pass. You're good.
And even that is a stopgap for when you've got eventually smart TV apps, all other stuff, move that box completely. And then you're kind of, you don't even have to make that investment. Or you get a control, right? I mean, that's it. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I haven't tried the xCloud. I guess what do they call it? The Game Pass streaming is what they call it. It's funny because you see all these Microsoft announcements of games coming to Game Pass, and now they just say things like, now available on Xbox One, Windows 10, and Android.
Huh. Weird.
And it sounds weird because when they say on Android, you think of it natively running on Android and not running through the Game Pass. They're running through streaming. But that's how they refer to it. And I think it's a confusing way to do it that will make even less sense once they do eventually roll out their iOS stuff.
Yeah,
they rolled out a new version of their iOS app, I think yesterday. Huh. And it has support for local streaming from your local Xbox to that app, as well as like new console setup stuff and stuff that they're clearly like, we're finding easier ways to set up an Xbox Series X from your phone or whatever it is to kind of expedite whatever that process is. And then they're going to work on their browser-based app for iOS, to bring that stuff to people that have iPhones. Yeah. It's interesting times.
Yeah, some wild stuff going on. Last little tidbit from this interview, he predicts that they will sell more Xbox Series S's than X's over the course of this generation, which I don't think I wouldn't put money against that, probably.
Yeah,
I could see it.
Yeah, the price and that is actually so. I think as that kind of non-final Xbox hardware has been torn down by people over the last few weeks here, I think for me increasingly the thing I want to see is the Series S, and see what that thing looks like in person, and what it can do. I thought there was an interesting quote in there where he says, like, in some cases, Series S games load faster than Series X games because the assets are
smaller. Yeah,
smaller. Because it's loading for a different resolution and all that shit. It's interesting technology. The way that it has fanned out, that the shit they are capable of doing now, that we wouldn't have even thought of at the start of this generation.
Yeah.
Is fascinating. There's no like one thing that you're like, this is a game changer. But like when you look at all that stuff, I think that's why I'm excited about the new consoles. Is just like you just look at it and go like, fuck, man, this a lot of crazy little things that they have done.
I have to give credit to Microsoft. At some point, they just said, you know what, there are no rules. Like, yes, we will release our games on Steam and the fucking Switch. Yes, we will release 2 different Xboxes with very different power levels on day one. Like.
Right.
Yes, we will let you stream the games from the new console on your old console. Right. They were just like, you know what, whatever, the tech is there, let's just exploit it.
I think a big part of it for me is why I'm not into the new consoles as much is because we've hit the point of diminishing returns on just purely how visual of an upgrade you can have from console to console. Like, obviously like Super Nintendo to N64, huge. N64 to game, like PS1 to PS2, huge. PS2 to PS3, pretty big. PS3 to PS4, and then like, PS4 to PS5, like PCs are already doing what PS5s are going to do, and it's all Mario.
If you're really talking about a pure comparison of PS4 to PS5, I think you will see a large difference there.
For sure. But, and it's a lot of other things like loading times and, it's a lot of technical stuff. But like just looking at a trailer of a PS4 game and then looking at a trailer of a PS5 game, it's like, this kind of looks better, I guess.
I think the PC has soured some of those comparisons as like having that in the middle of just like, oh, well, I've got a PC that's already more powerful than this PlayStation 4. Because I think if you go look at, especially if you go back to the start of the generation and you say like, okay, year 1 PS4, year 1 PS5, how do these games look? Knack doesn't look like Miles Morales.
Sure.
Like
totally.
there are.
Yes. I'm not saying they look the same. I'm saying that the difference between Knack and Miles Morales is smaller than the difference between Miles Morales and like a PS3 game, like Uncharted, whatever. It's just like I feel like that jump is larger, and it's like. So they have to have all these other little things for you to get excited about because, like, it's way harder to sell a video game console now.
Sure. I mean, you're not entirely wrong, but it's important to remember that no game has been developed with a full development cycle on this hardware yet. Like everything is still developed with those old machines as a baseline. So even Miles Morales is built on the existing Spider-Man tech and assets.
We're also in this really shitty limbo where all of the assets and trailers and all the other stuff is like, here, watch this YouTube trailer of Miles Morales and then try to see what it looks like compared to a real game. I mean, if you're at a point where you're like, okay, I've got the proper, and this is where it gets even more expensive and weird, because some of the stuff where they just announced today, like Master Chief Collection will run at 120 hertz on Xbox Series X. I'm like, oh, cool. Oh, wait, I don't have the ability to do that. I have one of these old fangled 60 hertz televisions that still has OLED and HDR and all that other cool shit, but it's still not enough. Between that, you take that and then extrapolate that even further to now you're making a trailer for YouTube, or you're putting out some video that you captured and trying to distribute that on an internet that is not quite built for that type of content anyway. And I feel like until we see those games running natively and running in person in front of us, I'm still reserving some judgment on that.
Yeah, like I think back to the early PS4. It's like the PS4 launch games were one thing, but when Uncharted 4 was shown for the first time, it's like, all right, here's what Naughty Dog has been able to do with 2 years on this hardware. Like that, I think there is still going to be a massive difference yet to be seen.
The CPU, I think, will enable a lot of stuff, and I think we'll also see and this is the stuff I think I'm most interested in about the new consoles, because I think you're right. Graphical fidelity is cool, right? It's
That
fucking
used to be
rad.
the thing for
It used to be
consoles.
the
for me.
thing, but now it's like, okay, like it's the expected thing. It's the thing that gets muddied by the existence of PCs and the
Right.
graphics cards that have
The half-step consoles.
half-step consoles have eroded that even further. And so I think a lot of that conversation then becomes like, okay, well, what are you really doing? What does this technology enable for games that isn't just, yo, man, this gun looks fucking 17% sicker on a PS5
These
than it did on
tires, dude.
PS4.
These tires are out of
I thought
control.
they were around before, but now you can read that they're fucking Pirellis, and you're like, oh, sick. I think you could probably do that already. I think that's where all the, why we've hung on to that Ratchet demo so tightly is because you see it and go like, oh man, the loading time actually, the loading time reduction actually could have a big meaningful difference here, and those sorts of things. And will the additional CPU power lead to more complicated systems in games? How will developers actually take advantage of that stuff beyond just the graphical fidelity and the ray tracing and all that other stuff? And I think that's the stuff that's going to take time, because again, like a lot of these games have like kind of one foot in the past, and we'll see how it all pans out. I think because some of these games will still have one foot on the PC and supporting a wide range of graphics cards there that might not, or a wide range of CPUs there that might not be up to the task, or there's a lot of potential bottlenecks when you get into that sort of stuff, I think, and I just don't know enough to see like when will developers or are developers pass that stuff already, because the architectures are so similar. That's the other, I think, thing to consider is if these platforms are similar to the previous ones in terms of how you make games for them, and developers are really hitting the ground running, pandemic aside, will they top out faster? Will they reach the maximum potential of what a PlayStation 5 can do in 2 years or something? And then you're like, now I guess you just got to deal with bad frame rates because people are trying to squeeze out more than it's capable of from here on out. Or is that when we get a half-step console, when you get a PS5 Pro, that kind of bumps it up again and staves that off for another 3 or 4 years? That's why I'm excited, because I don't have the answers to those questions, and I think that like I really want to see what developers do, and especially once we're on the other side of all the fucking shit in the world, and people are working together in studios to make games and doing mocap and all the other stuff that it takes to make a video game as a group, as a large team. Like, what are they actually capable of? And I have faith that there will be some pretty cool shit.
I absolutely do too. But I bet that stuff's at least a year away before you start seeing anything that is like super truly different than what we've got
under
now.
the best development conditions of like of everyone's working together on engines they are familiar with and stuff, it still takes a year.
COVID is also interfering with that.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's like COVID is fucked up everything. And is still fucking up everything. We're at a point where not only did Halo get pushed back, which I don't know if you heard, Halo got pushed back.
I heard that on a podcast somewhere.
But like, they are not committing to a date.
Yeah.
It's not like they're like, we're pushing it back into March. It's not like we're like, hey, we need a few more months to polish. They're like, hey, listen,
We'll let you know.
And I assume they have a target in mind, and maybe it is March. Who knows? But like, I feel like if it was March, they would say, it's not going to be that far off. Like, it feels like something where we could be like into September or something and be like, Halo's coming out soon. Like, who knows, man? It's fucking wild.
Yeah, it's going to be a while.
Yeah.
Like it's important to bear in mind that, for example, the Unreal Engine 5 is not even available yet. So like, you look at that tech demo they put out, like, people are not making games with that yet. Like,
have they not shipped that to devs at all?
I believe it is early next year.
Okay, all right.
Is what they're saying. So it's going to be a bit, but we'll get there.
Fortnite 3 running on Unreal Engine 5. Think about
They're
it.
skipping 2. They're going straight to 3.
Chapter 2. That's Fortnite 2.
No, but this is 3.0.
Okay. This is Fortnite 2 3.0:2.
Right. The sequel.
The squeakquel.
Okay, chat says UE5 is in some developers' hands. That may be the case. They were saying preview in early 2021, full release late in 2021. Although maybe that tracks with when games will be out using it. It's not clear. This is on unrealengine.com, but
Shadow Complex 2.
that's right. There you go.
Okay, I'll take it.
Well, I can tell you what games are going to be native to the Xbox Series X on November 10th
Tell me.
because I have this list right in front of me here.
Read every single.
Should I just read the whole thing? All right, fine. Here goes.
All right.
Even though we did this in that meeting yesterday. Xbox Series X and S optimized is the actual category. That's what Microsoft is calling these games.
So this is more than backwards compatible.
Right.
This is work got done to make them run a specific way on these platforms.
Right. Okay. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Borderlands 3, Bright Memory 1.0. I'm not sure what that is.
It's a shooter. It's like a one-person team, like one single developer.
Oh.
It's been out on Steam for a long time. I believe
Pass.
something with it. It's very pretty.
Okay.
I will say.
All right.
It's
Great
very
job.
Yeah. There's a decent number of games on this list that have been out on, let's say, Steam or similar platforms for some time. Cuisine Royale, Dead by Daylight, Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition, Dirt 5, Enlisted, Evergate, The Falconeer, Fortnite, perhaps you've heard of it. Forza Horizon 4, Gears 5, Gears Tactics, Grounded, King Oddball, Maneater.
That just sounds like a Halo mode. They're like, we can't put the game out, but we're going to King Oddball.
Yep. Let's see. Maneater, Manifold Garden, NBA 2K21, Observer System Redux, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, Planet Coaster, Sea of Thieves, Tetris Effect Connected, The Tourists, War Thunder, Warhammer Chaos Bane Slayer Edition, Watch Dogs Legion, WRC 9, Yakuza Like a Dragon, and Yes, Your Grace. So that's kind of, I guess that's what you would call your full launch lineup for the Xbox Series X.
Okay.
Which,
Ori's pretty good.
Ori's pretty good. I still need to play through that whole game. I've played the first hour and a half, and I should get back to that.
You should beat
I
that
wonder
game.
how Planet Coaster would be with a controller.
Probably. Is that a full-on build your own coaster kind of thing?
Yeah.
You know, Xbox One launch had Zoo Tycoon, so why not?
Yeah. That's yes, it did. Yes, it did. Goddamn it! And where is that? Where is a game of that caliber?
Do you know
I think the closest you're getting is Bugsnax on the PlayStation.
Bugsnax?
Okay. Fair enough.
Are any of these games coming out the same day? Do you know? Did they time any of these to that? Did they go that hard on? Let me just click through on a couple of these and see if I can find some release dates. Yes.
Do you mean are they coming out?
Yakuza is the 10th.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm just wondering how many of these are like tied in that tightly that they're actually. So is Assassin's Creed.
Right.
Right.
That they are actually coming out literally the same day as the console. Both of those are.
Cyberpunk's like a week later, right?
Yes, one week later.
And Watch Dogs is out like next. What is that? That's like
late next week, like the 29th
next week,
9th or something like that.
Yeah. But that is. Sorry, that's. Is that on that? That wasn't on that list,
It
right?
is. Yes, it is.
It is. Okay. All right. I wasn't. Okay.
Yes, so that will have.
I couldn't remember if that was something where they were like, "Oh, we're doing our next gen versions next year."
No,
like Avengers was supposed to be on this list too. I would think, but they.
Yes, we will get to that.
Right.
And a good number of these are marked as smart delivery games, and a decent number of them are also on Game Pass. Mostly the first-party ones, of course.
Yeah.
So there's your kind of launch lineup for the Series X. Sony, meanwhile, just kind of dropped a video out of nowhere showing the new PS5 interface.
Yeah.
Which
Rounded corners.
Yeah, I think it looks nice, but it also doesn't like. I'm not trying to be negative, but it doesn't like scream personality to me. Like it looks pretty understated, I guess is the word I would use. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess Sony stuff has always been just kind of like classy and nondescript. Is sort of always been their vibe.
You heard that PS3 startup sound. That is the vibe they've been chasing ever since,
That's
right?
fair.
Is you check out this orchestra in front of your PlayStation.
Yeah.
Right.
But like
slim played down logo, it all fits.
But I mean,
within
like
the-
that kind of wavy, like blue undulating thing that the PS4 does still kind of is very PS4 to me, and there's not really that here as much. But
Well, I feel like they didn't, because I feel like they showed a lot of this in context of a game running in the background,
that
as opposed
that
to
is
like
true.
the Sackboy
full
game.
startups. Yeah, they showed a lot of the Sackboy.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess they're kind of resuming a game here, aren't they? Like because they log in straight to Sackboy running. Big story from this has to be the hint system, right? Like that seems like by far the most interesting. In fact, that's the feature I was alluding to last week when I said I had heard there was a PS5 feature that seemed kind of neat.
Is the hint system, is that provided by the developers, or is that like users creating tips like in a Dark Souls type of deal?
My understanding is it's both.
Tip team. Oh, okay. So I think the way they frame it up here is that it's developer led.
I think that is the I don't know. Let's say like starting condition. I think, but I don't know if they've come out and said that this is also user driven. But I was under the impression that it would be.
Okay.
But I guess I
think that
can't say for sure until they confirm it.
Right. Yeah, because I watched this video and did not take from it that it was the thing that you had heard about in the system, because I think that's I had envisioned it in a different context.
So
but
when I heard about it, but
so the tip thing, user driven will ruin it, I think, in a lot of ways, unless they clamp down on what users can submit so tightly. Because okay, if I'm going into a game and it's saying like, here's a tip on how to do it, it needs to be this 20 second, it needs to be the shortest possible, cleanest, most coherent clip imaginable for here's how you do the thing you're trying to do. If it's more than that, then we're like back in the YouTube problem of here's a 20-minute video of some guy going like, what's up guys? I got to make this video long so we can get that ad revenue. Anyway, I'm going to talk for like 10 minutes and then eventually show you this thing. Like that, I think breaks it.
Yeah.
Even Google has started to like, have you guys seen this where you'll load up a YouTube video you find from Google and it'll just play from like 2 minutes and 20 seconds in because it knows everyone skips to this fucking point to avoid the stupid intro. I wonder if there's something that they can kind of use that with. I don't know.
Yeah, like it has to be. It's I hate to like. It has to be perfect or it's useless. Like that's the fucked thing about it is like for this to be like a built-in thing that it has to serve its purpose incredibly well, and it has to be. You have to like look at it and be right back in your game and be like, all right, cool. That was useful information. And now I'm back here playing, because if it's anything less than that, I might as well look at my phone. I might as well do it a different way. And then I'm back in that problem of like skipping ahead past all this bullshit. And so I have my doubts about how that stuff will pan out, because I think if you have a lot of developer submitted stuff, you'll have a lot of third-party games that are just like, are we going to do this for just the Sony version?
Yeah,
and because the Xbox doesn't have anything and the PC doesn't have anything, are we really going to do that? Nah.
That's why I assume
or really we don't have the resources to do it.
Right. Like that's why I assume it has to have some user-driven component. Is that it's like a huge burden depending on the size of the team and the resources and how many other versions of the game they're making. Like that's like a lot of extra work to expect from the developers of the game.
But also I don't think that I just don't. I don't see a user-generated version of that actually being what you need it to be effective. And I think that's the problem. That was something like when I mentioned that on Twitter when they put this video out, I kind of heard from a couple of developers here and there, some publicly, some not, that were just like, the basic consensus was like, yeah, we do not have the resources to do this on top of making the damn game. So like, either you then go, and maybe you hire someone who makes guides on YouTube for a living and say, hey, we're going to get you on a contract basis. We're going to send you this build of the game. Could you make some videos for us?
Like that's what I was going to say, because isn't this feature, correct me if I'm wrong, this is behind a PS Plus subscription, right? Aren't they?
Yes.
I believe that is the case. So yeah, maybe they can justify throwing more moderation and kind of quality control resources at this by monetizing it.
But also it's like with some of the tips that users may need, if it's not user driven, is the developer gonna assume that this is going to be the hard part for every single player, or is this going to be the stumbling block?
Right. Have they said like this rolls out day one, or is this something that's constantly like day one with game, or does it constantly get
I think
upgraded?
the ideal is that it's there day one with the game, because if
Sure.
you're getting a game on launch day and you get stuck and there's nothing there, then it's already useless. You're
Almost
gonna
like if you're, let's say, looking at a video game before it's out and get stuck on a part and try Googling it and you can't find shit.
Exactly. You know, it's that is, yes. If that stuff's not there when you're playing the game, and a lot of players play games right at launch, well, you know, it's useless. You miss the window. Like if it's there 6 months later, who cares?
Well, it's not useless.
It's not
can
useful,
still be
but it is
helpful.
far less useful if it is not there when the groundswell of interest in a game is there at or around launch. And
especially like imagine a game like Braid or something that's like all about like being, or Fez, you know, that kind of like groundswell of just like, oh, there's a new game and it's like really mysterious and it's tricky, but I need some help here. Like I need, you know, everyone's talking about it. I don't want to go look up like, because I don't want to go to Google and search like, how do I beat this thing? Because I might get spoiled and stuff like that.
But at the same time, like when you think about like a game like Fez or even Braid, and I think those are probably like the two perfect examples. If I were the makers of Braid or Fez, I would not put any videos in there of use, unless it was like, here's how you jump. Like if that game is about, like, you know, not to spoil Fez, but you're not going to put a thing in there where you're like, how do I learn what the alphabet is? Or, you know, how do I learn how to learn in Fez? Like that is that game, you know, whether it's
sure. But I mean, some people are going to play that game and enjoy it and not ever figure out on their own how they're going to do that thing. And like, I mean, you know, like puzzle games still have got video game guides written about them.
Yes, but like that, I feel like that's like, I think putting it alongside the game in the game, and having like it's the reason why I think it's, you know, it's weird that Mortal Kombat games have fatalities in the menus when you think about the origins of those as like being mysterious information or whatever. Like games should be allowed to have mysterious information.
It's still mysterious. No one's forcing you to like use the guide feature.
But if on day one, someone looks it up and goes, oh, here's where you go and you see this fox, turns out this is the alphabet. Like it took a long time in Fez for people to get to the point where they were like, oh, this is what the game is even trying to say. Like that was not a day one revelation.
But now it is. But like, see, now if Fez came out, there'd be day one videos about how to do that, because somebody would stay up for 8 hours, turn around a YouTube video, because they know they'd get massive SEO hits if they're the first person to be out there.
That era had already started when Fez first released.
Not to the degree it is now. I mean, now you can look up anything about any video game and find all the information within 24 hours.
I feel like Fez was mysterious enough about that specific thing that I think you would maybe not have a day one.
I get that. I guess my point is like, no one's forcing anybody to use those, and you're only ruining it for yourself if you're ruining it. And like, I get it's up to whoever buys the game to enjoy it how they want, right?
You're right, but like, did you play Fez at launch?
Yeah.
Okay,
so I had my whole notebook full of notes.
But also, like the late game of that was this very communal thing of a community forming around trying to figure out like the last handful of puzzles and some of the other stuff in that game. Like it was more than just kind of learning the alphabet and then going around and doing the thing. Yeah, like all the like the Metatron, like there was like other stuff in there that like people had to puzzle out for like kind of a long time. And that experience ended up being a big part of Fez, or ended up being a part of like this communal aspect of Fez, which is like a weird thing, but like that ended up being one of the cooler parts of that game.
I never engaged with that stuff.
Yeah,
Once I beat Fez, awesome. I put it down.
It was amazing. Like all the we got to get all these
there to
figure out this stuff. Like there's
just avoid them.
But that's the thing. Someone doesn't avoid it, and then they poison that entire community with the knowledge. Day one, done.
I don't believe
that's exactly how it would happen. You wouldn't have people going like, "Hey, don't spoil it," but we want to find it out for ourselves. Someone would immediately come in and go, "Oh, I figured it out. It's this," and it would be ruined. It would never happen again. It would never happen again. You are putting too much faith in individual players.
People see movies on release day, and people still get to see movies that aren't spoiled.
That's a very different thing. That's a disengage. Like I'm saying, like if you're engaging with a community to puzzle something out, and it is a larger community that is not, now maybe, you could have like a private Discord of 4 people and the 4 of you are trying to figure it out. But I'm talking about like Fez was more message boards and a larger, less like, here are my friends talking about Fez. It was a larger community of people that you don't know all those people. And someone day one would say, I watched all the videos and here's this, and it would be done. It would be fucking ruined.
What is the point of contention here, that these hints will be right there at your fingertips in the game now?
I think it for certain types of games, there needs to be deliberate mystery, and there needs to be situations where developers are like, no, we are straight up not giving hints.
I have
we are not putting out a game guide. We are not putting out this stuff.
I would certainly hope that Sony is leaving it at each developer's discretion as to what to put into those hints. Like that,
I'm sure that's exactly. That's why I say, like, in a case like Fez, the hints should be like, did you know you can jump?
Right.
Like, hey, here's how to get the first cube. Here's how to, or maybe like the first anti-cube or whatever. Like, just to hint at something more. And so I think there's a tasteful way to do that, but you wouldn't go and put every single aspect of a game like Fez into that hint system. It would ruin it. Or The Witness,
I don't think it would ruin it though. Like, it would enable people who get stuck to beat it. It could potentially ruin it for the initial group.
Information.
Hold on. It could potentially ruin it for the first group of people who are really passionate about the game and don't want to look anything up, and they have like a Discord community. It could get spoiled there. That's for sure true. But like, think 6 months from now, somebody who doesn't have a lot of experience with puzzle games, really likes the look of the game, downloads it, gets halfway through and gets stuck. They're not good at puzzle games. And now they have to either stop playing or look up a solution. And if this hint system is in there for those people, they will get to have fun with the video.
So maybe after the fact, like after a community has had their time with a game, you hit that spoiler window or whatever it is, then sure, maybe you could put something in at that point. It's like, hey, because no one's ever going to have that experience again.
Yeah.
With Fez, like that stuff is known now, and that's finished. And so at this point, maybe you could, but I'm saying if you are putting out a game like that, or like The Witness or something like that, like, could you imagine if like on day one, and day one, certainly people did figure it out, but imagine if you actually, you buttoned into it and even saw the question of just like, oh, how do I do this? And people are like, oh, did you know you can line this shit up like this? You'd be like, oh,
well, I mean, we kind of that already happens to us because sometimes we have to talk about games with other people who have advanced copies of games, and like,
but
you'll ask a question and something will get. Well, I'm saying that's the same experience of like day one people, right? Of like, sometimes you're accidentally going to get spoiled on something. I mean, it happens. It's the nature of like storytelling.
But I think if you've got like mystery, again, games should be allowed to have mystery, and I think communities should be allowed to form without having that mystery ruined by game guides and hint systems and stuff like that. Like,
and I guess that's just where we disagree, because I don't think it ruins it. I think it has the potential to inconvenience some people, but I don't think those accessibility options ruin the mystery of a game.
I think you end up in a situation where it's the equivalent of someone driving past the people lined up to see Harry Potter yelling spoilers at them. It is that. If you have like that information out there in this hint system or in a Prima guide or whatever, and then you're trying to have a large community, again, not like a private Discord of 8 people or 20 people or whatever, but like, hey, we're trying to have like all the people playing this game get together. I hope no one anonymously dude, like it should.
Oh yeah. I agree. It should.
I think like if you look at like some of the stuff around The Witness, as people found out, like, oh man, what's going on here? If you look at stuff like Fez, I think that like that shit is cool, and I think the games should be allowed to do that, and not just on a small scale, but like on a larger, like, hey, we've got to get together and try to solve this stuff and have that social aspect of puzzle solving. I think that those were cool moments in gaming history. That if this system existed, it would have fucked it up.
I think we just have to depend on developers to self-police, right?
Yeah, I think that, obviously the developers that are making a game where they want to have mystery would know not to do that shit.
I mean, the thing I do wonder, though, was it Jonathan Blow that we interviewed years ago, probably about Braid, if I had to guess? I think it was him who was saying, I fucking hate achievements. I didn't want achievements in my game, but they forced me to put them in there. Was that
I
him?
believe that.
Or it was somebody,
yeah.
it was some outspoken indie developer that we talked to where like they had to put in achievements because it was part of the TCR from the platform holder that they couldn't ship their game without achievements. And if this feature falls on the bad side of that kind of situation where it's like you have to have this, and this to help people along, then yes.
I don't think they'll force people into using the hint system because I just don't think that's realistic. I just don't. Again, I think that's why the hint system is kind of. When I look at that stuff and see what they're talking about, like that seems like it's a weird thing to put onto devs to say like, okay, now on top of getting your game done, we need you to submit 10 videos,
Right.
whatever it is. Like, I think that stuff's a bummer. For me, the more interesting system is the activity, like, hey, here's how long we think it'll take you to finish this thing you're doing. I think that's a really fascinating and potentially really useful thing.
And I wonder if stuff like that is programmatic where they're like sourcing data from everybody that plays those games and saying like, here's the average of what it takes people, as opposed to like the designer of the level said, I think this will take you about 15 minutes.
Right. I hope it's I hope it's like something that is
like some dynamic thing
led by real data and not just an assumption or whatever. And there's some language in their video where they talk about like how long we think it'll take you. There's an emphasis there on like it being a little more personalized. And so I wonder
that I feel like that would be the sweet spot, is if they kind of like based on what things you look up hints for, what things you don't, what games you look up hints for, if they could be a little more like upfront about like, I don't want it to be like interject if I die on a jump 3 times and be like, here's how to beat this jump. But like maybe the first time you fire up a game, it's been like, just a reminder, this game kind of contains some of this stuff. We've got these hints available for you when you're ready to see them. They've already got like spoiler filters in place, which is nice. Like you're not going to lose like plot spoilers or whatever. Like if you like need to look up something that happens in a couple hours and some like character dies and all of a sudden you're watching this video and the character's dead and you're like, what the fuck is happening? They've accounted for that a little bit, which is nice.
That again will come down to dev support, and I look at stuff like that the same way I look at the who blocks cutscenes from being allowed to be streamed, like that that system.
Like this is just going to become another personality trait, the same way that stuff has been. Of like when you say that out loud, I think to myself like, oh, you're talking about Square Enix, right? Like or Atlas. Yeah, there are like 3 companies.
It'll be a weird thing where single thing you take a screenshot of from a Square game will be automatically spoiler tagged because they just make the entire game,
or have their copyright added to the corner, like when you
yeah.
Do you remember when we had to play the first part of Kingdom Hearts, but we couldn't show it, so I had to draw what was happening on a whiteboard?
Yep, but then we didn't realize that the reflection was showing.
We realized that it went perfectly and there was nothing wrong with it because the archive is still up.
I thought you were going to mention the time early into the quarantine when I think you wanted to stream like a My Hero Academia game, but then the game was blocked off from streaming completely. So we just wound up reading the
PS4 streaming.
Right. So we just wound up reading the EULA. That was fun.
That was like a 16-page EULA.
Oof, wow. I didn't know people pronounced EULA that way. That's such. You learn something new every day.
EULA.
Yeah, this seems like an interesting experiment, and maybe it'll peter out after a year. It certainly wouldn't be the first new console feature that kind of just became forgotten and gone after a year or two. So
I think in a perfect world, like I think it's a really awesome feature, and like it'll be really cool for some of those first party games and stuff like that, where they are, obviously incentivized to use their own system. But it's just hard to imagine a world where that stuff gets widespread use across all games for like a long term.
Because it requires such an effort from, like you said, the developers. It requires an effort from Sony, and then if there's not even an audience for it, like turns out nobody's using it. They've put in all this work, and so they're like, okay, fuck it, we're not going to do this shit anymore.
Or like or maybe it does become something that Sony takes on, and they rebuild the tip team, and you
assembled
promote Matt Kessler to head of tip team.
Of tip team. Is that a promotion at this point? I don't know. Like,
I mean, he's leading his own team, man. That's a step up.
Now he can have his own team, the tip team.
The tip team.
This is kind of just a minor detail, but I'll throw it in there since we're talking about PS5. This came from, let's see, This was an interview on 4gamer.net in Japanese, I believe, that was translated on Reset Era, but it sounds like Sony's going to be sourcing performance data and kind of heat generation from specific games, and then essentially patching in custom fan curves for individual games as they are released.
That's a hot game.
Yeah, so try to manage the cooling and noise level of the console, which is kind of neat. Speaking of tracking people's performance data and doing something interesting with it.
What if the data they wind up tracking is that some folks just leave a game running, and that skews the fan data?
You can't pollute their data, man. You got to keep it clean.
They would probably know, like, active use versus...
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm sure. Surely they have thought that stuff through.
Does that mean if you play a game early, you will get worse frame rates because the console overheated? The PS5 was the hot one all along.
I mean, that already happens with day one patches.
It's true.
Yeah, but now you need enough data to make your day 10 patch.
No!
Iron
Fuck all video games forever.
Yeah, now you're talking.
Forever.
All right, let's whip through the rest of these news stories here. Konami gave a quote to Games Radar about PT on the PS5, which was this: "The content will not be available on the PlayStation Store, so users won't be able to re-download the content through the backwards compatibility feature to the PS5." Talking about PT.
Wow.
I feel like that's a... Go ahead.
They have such an aversion to just saying it.
The content.
They don't even want to say it.
Yeah.
But also, like, it's like, people give Konami a lot of shit for not making games anymore and barely being in the game business. And I feel like this quote misses the other ways that people might be able to get PT onto a PS5. It's like this fundamental misunderstanding of just like, well, you realize like you could plug a hard drive in that had it on there from your PS4 and that the external drives will work. And so I
imagine it's a scenario of some people in an office, just heads in hand, screaming and crying. Why are they still talking about PT? Why is this still a thing?
I think you mean the content.
Oh,
why are they still talking about the content?
We were talking about
content.
They tweet us every day about the content. We have to put out a post.
We were talking about the content, which may not be played on the PlayStation 5.
So it sounds like the loophole that they leave open in their answer is not actually going to work either.
Yeah,
from the sounds of things.
Yeah, because yes, you can plug a PS4 hard drive straight into a PS5. The PS4 to PS5 system transfer option is supposed to move all of the contents of your old console over via like Ethernet or Wi-Fi. Although I guess they could filter out games they don't want to make that transition.
Sure,
if they built that in there.
If they can filter content.
I'm sorry, the content might not make that transition. But yes, it sounds like there are other aspects to making PS4 games work on PS5 that might also...
that they would not do to that content because it is not technically available and Konami doesn't care about it at all. So why would they?
No, they actively hate it.
Yes.
They are not content with the content.
They really are not.
They'll not be content until the content is gone.
Yeah.
Until the last copy of PT has been erased from the planet.
Yeah.
And then you get a whole new cutscene. It's great. Like if you can eliminate all the PTs from all the hard drives, it unlocks the final cutscene.
Yeah.
We're really excited about it.
I think
so everyone out there, delete your PTs.
You tell me. I think we're pretty confident in saying that PT will not run on a PS5 at this point.
I feel supremely confident in saying that PT will not run on a PS5.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Can you say you're supremely confident that somebody out there isn't going to make the next 9 months of their lives for whatever reason devoted to making PT run on a PS5?
Okay, I'll put it this way: a retail PS5 that runs that is not modified in any way. How about that? I will say
some maniac out there is going to make that thing run on a PS5.
If people get into a PS5 in darker ways than they were supposed to and are able to work some magic there, anything is possible.
They put the salt down, they put the candles down, they get the EMF reader lined up with the PS5.
But yes,
Norman Reedus was supposed to be in PT, right? That's how that relationship started?
I think so. I believe that's the case.
PT.
I know Del Toro was involved, but don't know about Norman
I think-
Reedus.
I think I am almost as disgusted, or not disgusted is not the word. I am almost as done talking about the content as Konami is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I watched that demo once.
Talk about PT.
I have no ill will toward the content itself at
Yeah.
all, but yes, the constant, just kind of burbling obsession with that game is just, it's
I
always
get it
there.
though. Like
just,
that's a fandom that has been so beaten down by Konami for
Yeah,
so
I guess
long, and
so.
it just had this little glimpse of hope.
Well, what
and
is
then
that
it just-
fandom though? Are you talking about the Silent Hill fandom
Silent
or the
Hill.
PT fandom? Because I'm not sure.
Silent
Are
Hill.
those the same thing?
I was gonna say
They're pretty much
specific PT fandom.
the Venn diagram that looks like this.
Fair. I never finished PT. It was too much for me.
Was there a lot to finish?
I found it incredibly unsettling.
Was it lacking content?
I think it's like 15 or 20 minutes long, right?
It's a teaser, it's
Yeah.
not meant to be. It's not even a demo.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay. Marvel's Avengers. As we
Assemble.
Yes.
Content.
When
Assemble.
does that come out?
Assemble on next gen consoles sometime next year.
Yeah, I noticed that wasn't on the list you read of
At an-
Xbox.
At an indeterminate date. Crystal Dynamics has delayed the PlayStation 5 and Series X native updates to Marvel's Avengers until sometime next year. No date in particular. They say they are just ensure that we give our team the time to deliver a next-gen experience showcasing all that this game is meant to be. More details to come. They're also pushing back the release of the next character a bit. Not too much, it sounds like.
It's not a
And that's
full.
not
It's not like
Spider-Man,
they
right?
took their roadmap and just like buried it.
No.
Talk about it again. It's more of a delay, right?
Yes, it's Kate Bishop is the next character.
Oh.
This just says pushed back out of October, so it doesn't sound like it's not like till next year or something. It might just be a delay of a week or 3 or something like that.
I didn't put it in my email, but I fired up Avengers this weekend and just like loaded it up, beat up some guys. I was like, yeah, this is okay. I'll do this again in a couple weeks.
I think it does take advantage of like faster loading and stuff on the new machines, but the full-on 4K or whatever they were planning to do to it will not be there for a while. Also, this stuff is always a little fuzzy and weird to talk about because it's not exactly hard data, but people have been eyeballing the Steam charts numbers for that game pretty hard
Yeah.
for the last couple weeks, and noting that it has been racking up player base in the, say, 1,500 to 2,000 people range for a while,
So it is hard to assemble the Avengers.
apparently.
Yeah.
To the point that, like, I'm looking at this Eurogamer story about it here that says that it's been low enough for the game to begin experiencing matchmaking issues. And that's just on PC. Like, it may have sold way more on console. It may be way more active on console for all we know. But
I'm looking at the Steam charts right now. I want to figure out what is played right after Avengers.
yeah.
It's not a good game. I mean, the quality of life stuff they did in this last patch seemed like the stuff that, again, like when you're launching one of these loot games where you've got social hubs and you've got to go places to pick up bounties and quests and all this other stuff, like you'd think like, oh, you want to make that as rapid as possible. So they literally just made it like you run faster in the hubs now, and they put in some stuff to make it so you can pick up those things, those quests from terminals instead of having to run to a specific point on the helicarrier to talk to a person and then run all the way back to the table to take on a mission. Like all that stuff, you just look at it and go like, who let this happen in the year 2020?
I'm telling you, every loot game, every live service game has got to go through this awful first period of figuring shit out.
It's like an easy win for them post-launch to be like, hey, we heard you and we fixed the thing. It was like, you just look at it and go like, how did it end up like this in the first place? Like, are people on the team just married to this idea? Just like, no, everyone, you're the Avengers. You want to live in the helicarrier, man. And like, no, I fucking don't. I want to pick up the 3 fucking quests that are the same 3 quests I did yesterday, by the way, and go out and do them again.
Yeah.
Like, it's just this fundamental disconnect of just like, I just don't understand how that stuff happened to this specific game because of how many games prior to this.
Yeah.
Whether it was Anthem, whether it was Destiny,
Yes.
like across the board, you just go like, it's like fucking Like, yeah, fuck your lore. Let people pick up the quest.
Like yes. In fairness,
Roll that in later.
In fairness, I have the
Endgame.
I have the same reaction you always do. Of all right, maybe this time is the time somebody's just going to get it right out of the gate because enough people have screwed it up to this point. But at that point, you just assume everybody has to learn the same lessons for themselves, right?
I guess so.
Okay, Marvel's Avenger is currently the 285th most played Steam game right now. It's barely beating Fallout Shelter by about 30 people.
Oh.
And it's just under the Lord of the Rings Online,
Okay.
Mafia 3 Definitive Edition, and Battlefield 5.
Man, you guys want to play some? You guys want to play some Lotro?
I don't even know what that is. Was that an MMO?
That's Lord of the Rings Online.
Yeah.
It's not the MOBA?
No.
There's a MOBA?
Yes.
There was a Lord of the Rings MOBA.
I started to say it was Battle from Middle Earth, but no, that's the Lord of the Rings RTS. I forget what the Lord of the Rings MOBA was, which wasn't bad, actually. I did the quick look for
No,
that
it wasn't.
game.
It was my favorite non-Dota game.
Surprisingly okay. I completely cannot remember what the Guardians of Middle Earth? That's what chat's saying.
Yeah,
right? I think that's right. That sounds right. I wonder if that game's still playable.
I think it's not. I think I remember being part of the farewell.
Did they take the servers down? You know what? You know what is weird is I'm in this weird mode right now where every time I either like a code shows up for some like indie game that I haven't heard of for Xbox One or PS4, or I'm reminded of an old PS4 game like this, first thing I think of is like, man, I can't wait to boot that up on a PS5. Like, man, I can't wait to try to play Guardians of Middle Earth on an Xbox Series X. I don't like why. I don't know why that is a thing, but I really want to
hit A and it's going to go like,
Yep.
not connected. I'm going to go download the Anthem beta on a PS5 and see what happens.
Like, what's up? I don't know what's up with that, but I totally,
That's a
Grow Home ran like shit on a PS4.
Yes, it did.
I want to play Grow Home on a PS5 and see if it runs better.
Yes,
I love Grow Home.
That's where my head's at. It's a great game.
Yeah,
it's a great game.
Man, what? Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
What if Marvel had a launch like Genshin Impact, where like the system, like everything is shared. You don't have to only play as one character to only level them up. You can just dump everything into everyone. And it's such a weird thing, especially as a fan of Marvel, like the comics for forever, that I'd rather play or spend my time playing Genshin Impact than the actual Avengers game because of how the systems work.
Yeah.
It just seems like a smoother experience.
Yeah, I like that game a lot. I'm still playing that. I hit rank 16 and unlock the co-op stuff, and I don't know if I'll ever do any co-op, but
Sure.
But I got there, so I don't know. Yeah,
I think Crystal Dynamics was dealt a really rough hand with this game. I think that this game was probably kind of impossible to make a hit to the degree that they were potentially pushed to. I don't know anything, but like if Marvel's letting you make their Avengers game, they're probably going to have some rules about how they want it made.
So many
hoops
to see from it to jump through.
Yeah, you're going to need to have these characters come in on these specific dates. You know, I'm sure they gave them a list of characters that are like launch characters here, post-launch characters here, because these characters are going to be folded into movies or whatever. We want to use this as a tie-in. Like, it has to be a live service game because every AAA video game is a live service game now. So you have to like spend resources on that. You have to get the multiplayer right, which they didn't really, but like they had to. Like, it just seemed like for this game to be great seemed like an impossibility almost.
And that's the fucked up thing about Avengers is like it's the story mode is the campaign, I think, has a really good story and it's well told, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And like the things that you kind of think about, like, oh, well, what are the types of games Crystal D has been making before this? And you're like, oh, you know, they've been doing Tomb Raider games and stuff that's like, you know, story focused and all that sort of stuff. You look at it, you're like, okay, well, they did relatively right by that stuff. It's the gameplay of this. It's the stuff that where they had to make it an action RPG. It's the stuff where it then has to become a live game on top of that, and has to become, you know, a game with a bunch of microtransactions and storefronts and, you know, currencies and rotating content,
battle passes.
Yeah, like all the stuff. It weighs it down so much.
Yeah,
the game just drowns because of it. You know, and if they just said like, hey, we want to make a good, but also if the pitch was, hey, we just want to make a good single player or maybe even 4-player co-op action RPG that's a campaign and you get through it and you're done, and maybe we sell some DLC campaigns after that, they wouldn't have made it because Marvel Alliance 3 happened, because like those games exist already. It wouldn't have been.
It could have been a critical hit, maybe, but like it would have been just like, oh, it's only 20 hours. What? No, I don't want to.
But I just think that's a bad idea all around. Like in retrospect, you look at it and the way that those characters have to be on brand and the way the looks have to be on brand for this type of
on brand, but also off brand, because they can't actually use the likenesses too, which is another another fold in it. Like
like on brand for the comics properties, but like movie adjacent, I guess. Right? Yeah, it's like this impossible to thread needle that they had, but also like on top of that, I do want to say that like I think that there is definitely a better version of that game, and they did not make it. Like I don't want to absolve all blame here per se, because I do think that whoever called a lot of the shots on what this game actually is made a lot of bad calls.
Agreed.
And whether some of those were dealt to them by Disney or whatever, at the end of the day, the game is the game, and it's just rough in a way that is still surprising. Maybe it shouldn't be in a world where every live game launches rough. This one just seems like rougher, and hey, we're in a pandemic, of course, and
it truly did not need loot. Like on top of everything else that it has going on for it. Like,
you don't want to equip a new ribcage? Come on.
But I do, but I want it to look like a sick-ass space ribcage.
Fair. If you're making that game and you don't have loot, what the fuck do you have?
Yeah.
Levels and a skill tree, I guess. That's it. I mean, it's not as interesting.
It's a skill tree that by the time you hit the top of that skill tree, you have
I would want a much better skill tree. That skill tree is bad.
It's just, I mean, obviously there are toggles. You toggle as to how you want to spec. Once you unlock those specific skills, you have a little bit of leeway there, to be fair, but like not enough that matters. And like that's that game. Like there's not enough in there that actually matters. Yeah. Except for the story and the campaign. And if you can find that game cheap enough to experience that, then hey, cool. Yes, definitely. And I don't know. I don't want to harp on this too much, but it's the note from the head of Crystal Dynamics that they put out on their blog that is the basis for this for these news posts, is like them going through the motions of like, hey, we are giving out some currency and we're giving out a graphical nameplate that is an homage to one of the more egregious bugs, so we can meme it up a little bit with y'all and be like, wasn't it funny that the game was busted? And then they get down to at the end, they kind of they try to have their like hat in hand heartfelt moment about like, we're all in this together, and also the world is crazy, and all this, like trying to sum up this whole thing about like and they get into stuff that like it literally hits home here. They're talking about like, hey, some of us had to evacuate our homes to stay safe from wildfires. The challenges faced in 2020 are many, and it's still to strengthen us. And then they try to liken it to superheroes, and I think it just falls apart in a weird way. We're just like, all right, guys, like, fix the game. But it's yes, I think anyway, that's a long-winded way of saying, Ben, I think you're right. They got dealt a bad hand at several different parts in this process.
They also made some poor decisions along the way.
I think there are a lot of bad calls in this thing that go all the way back to that time the first time you saw it at E3, back when there was E3s.
I could not describe it to you.
I don't know how this never occurred to me until I listened to you have this conversation just now, that like when you mentioned Crystal Dynamics, like their wheelhouse is like single player story driven,
Yeah, those Tomb Raider games,
Soul Reaver and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
It made me think how much I really like Rise of the Tomb Raider. I thought they were really onto something with that. Like that game was way better than I expected it to be. And then they made this. Like this is the thing that they moved away from a game that I really liked and a style of game that they were really good at making to do.
But I feel like the story you heard all along was that those Tomb Raider games weren't necessarily selling enough to satisfy.
Yeah, maybe not.
The parent company.
And maybe that's why Microsoft paid for the exclusivity on that game.
Yeah.
But like, and the third Tomb Raider got shunted off to another developer and was kind of underwhelming. So like, everybody lost on this one. So.
Yeah, and I I've said it before and I've been wrong before, but like I just don't see how this game gets salvaged. I feel like the one shot they've got is releasing it onto next gen platforms at a time when there is not an abundance of new content on those platforms, and hoping to pull in people who maybe didn't buy the last consoles or play, you know, they're like, oh, well, hey, there's a new Marvel game on this new console I just bought. I'll get it, I guess. Like, and now they're missing that window too, potentially.
Yeah.
I just don't see how you turn this one around when you look at where the Steam numbers are at and stuff like that. It's like, I feel like even Anthem had a higher time of moving up before, you know, doing what Anthem did. And this feels like it just kind of started in that pit and never really dug out.
Fair.
We'll see. I mean, you know, like I said, I've been wrong before. Games have revived themselves in surprising ways and pulled it together. Final Fantasy 14 still exists, and that's even this same publisher. So
Artifact is coming back, baby.
Yeah, any day now. Artifact 2.0.
I have access to
I got into the Artifact 2.0 beta.
Have you guys seen, I know Brad has seen it, but have you guys seen any of the programmer art they have for some of the cards?
Oh, it's amazing.
It's like literally stick figure drawings.
Yeah.
Of
the Dota
like a guy with
characters.
little horns.
Like isn't there a straight up like MS Paint version of Sand King in there on that card that I yeah, dude, it's amazing.
That sounds awesome.
It's really good.
It's
Sounds great.
I just
Is
like
the game
it. I haven't played it.
I played one game and was just like, oh, okay. Artifact had a lot of good ideas, and then I closed Artifact.
Do you think that Anthem update ever comes out? Do you think that just quietly dies on the vine?
So they're the person running that effort, I think, in BioWare Austin does post to Twitter about like, hey, this is kind of the stuff we're like, they're not being hyper specific about what that is, and the details that they have out there are still ambiguous around even just basic things like, are you going to charge for this? Which the answer I still feel like has to be no. But like the scope of it, all this other stuff is still really ambiguous. But there is like, hey, here's some concept art.
Okay, all right.
So there's this weird. This is, you know, yeah, there is still this weird slow flow of Anthem info, I guess, or detail, or not details. Just the notion that people are still there doing Anthem stuff. I don't know, but they talk a lot about like, oh, some of it is like specific in a way that you look at and go like, this isn't enough, because like we're going to let you re-roll your inscriptions, so you'll never get a weapon that's bad.
What?
You're like, okay, like that's not like if like that's cool, but like honestly, shouldn't you instead lift out that entire system and throw most of it away and come up with something better?
No.
Because that's not the thing. And yeah, I don't know. It's or like, hey, you're going to be able to equip weapons as you find them. You don't have to go back and end your mission to be able to change your loadout. You're like, okay, yeah.
I mean, that's good. They should do that, but that's not
do that.
That's not
Like,
going to fix the game.
No, that doesn't change the calculus here. Like, yeah, it's that is a fascinating one.
Yes.
Yeah, supposedly there's still something happening with Anthem somewhere.
I'll believe it. All right. Let's get through the last couple stories here real fast. Blizzard's not making StarCraft II anymore.
What?
Good.
They are. We just passed. I don't know what the exact release date of StarCraft II Wings of Liberty was, but we're right around the 10-year mark on that. Like that franchise, that game, whatever you want to call it, just turned 10, basically.
So have you believe that that's a retro game now? Then
I don't know if I'd go that far.
that I say pish posh.
Yes. Anyway, Blizzard has posted a blog saying they are not going to produce any more content for sale for that game. I don't know if you guys knew that they've been making announcer packs and co-op characters and all kinds of stuff.
No idea.
Yeah, they've been making and selling stuff in StarCraft 2 for quite some time, but no more. They're discontinuing all that stuff. They'd say they will continue updating balance in the game on kind of an as needed
Right.
basis, but not even
Because they still do that with Brood War, even.
Yes. But it sounds like even this, they are probably going to slow down the cadence of balance patches and just do them when necessary. So, like, they don't come out and say it, but they are basically sort of sunsetting StarCraft 2 here. Putting it in maintenance mode, whatever you want to call it, you know?
Yeah,
Which is...
it's had a good run and then a good run, and then I feel like, I don't know, you tell me. I feel like the long view on that is like, hey, you know what? that had an important run as an esports thing before the MOBAs ate its lunch completely.
Totally.
But
you know what game's releasing a new hero next month? Dota 2, baby. They're still at it. Fuck you, StarCraft.
Rude.
Is it going to be like a cool influencer character that has its own Twitter?
That has depression and tweets about it?
Yeah. That Riot stuff, man. Holy shit.
So hang on. I didn't.
Depths of that until there was the Vice story about it.
I only know what I've absorbed through osmosis about that. Do they make a character based on a real life influencer, or do they make a character who is an influencer?
They made a character who is an influencer.
Seraphini.
Yeah, and then gave that character a Twitter account where it says,
"Oh boy,
I'm feeling sad today. Can you let me know how,
Here's what she tweeted. This is the new character. We're going to Shanghai in 2 days, and it's finally settling in all at once. I've been working so hard, and I've been trying my best to love myself, but I still can't find the confidence I need. I'm realizing that I can't do this alone, and maybe I need to be the one to ask for help. So could you give me some encouraging words? I need something to believe in right now."
I'm not sure that League of Legends gets to do this. I'm not. You tell me.
You got people out there that are going through actual going through stuff like this for real, and I feel like writing a story, which is kind of what they're doing, where they're just playing off of that, hey man, mental health of this virtual character. No, I'm not going to send support to this fake person that's sad. Get fucked, you assholes.
We had a incredibly prominent YouTuber kill himself a year ago, roughly, facing depression, tweeting about their depression and shit. And this virtual character cannot do that. I'm sorry. It's
fucked. It is fucked. So I saw that there was some outrage around it, and I thought initially it was just it's because they made a character that's an influencer and people don't like those that much, except when they do, and then they like them a lot. But no, the actual real story of that was just what the fuck? Who the fuck did this? Who thought this was going to be the way to do this? It's really mind blowing.
Yeah,
that people think that's a cool thing to do, or
it's weird because it does feel like a natural extension of what they've been doing with their characters. They have a whole fake, well, I guess it's real, K-pop band within the League of Legends universe, who do virtual concerts and release music videos and stuff like that. So I could see somebody working there being well, let's just have an influencer and just keep going on and not thinking they're doing anything malicious
by saying I'm sad. It's fucked. It's really shitty. It's really shitty.
Yep. Indeed.
So the new Dota 2 character's not that then?
They haven't said much about them, so I'm really hoping I don't have to eat my crow.
Oh, jeez.
No, it's just going to be a VTuber instead who speaks broken English as they cast spells.
Whew.
Okay. Go on.
Christ averted.
Well, feels kind of trivial to pivot back from that to RTS again, but I had the end of StarCraft II thing in here, and then just this morning, an hour before the podcast, I saw a new studio. So actually, this is kind of a bigger deal, not in the context of StarCraft so much as in the context of new studios spinning off of Blizzard. So a new studio has been announced called Frost Giant, which is a bunch of veterans of StarCraft II and Warcraft 3, and they straight up say they are making the next great RTS, the next great PC real-time strategy game. And Tasteless, if you know anything about the StarCraft community, he is one of the two casters that I went to Korea to see cast those StarCraft finals back in the day. He is a name in that community for sure. He posted a video this morning saying hey, I got to talk to these guys before they announced their studio. These are the right people that you want making a new RTS that is a successor to StarCraft. This is a big deal for people who care about RTS.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so that's awesome from the standpoint of nobody of a Blizzard caliber is going to make an RTS in this day and age. So indie is probably the best you're going to do.
Yeah,
if you want another one of those.
We've had We Are Millions, right? There've been a couple indie RTSs that have been pretty favorably looked at.
Grey Goo, right?
Grey Goo was another one, yeah. But also, yeah, like my understanding is these people have nothing to do with Mike Morhaim's new thing, which is also 2 new studios.
Okay.
But like, it's just a lot of names getting out of Blizzard and starting new studios all at the same time.
Yeah.
In a pretty eye-catching way.
I wonder if it was bonus season and everyone got their bonuses and they're like, okay, I'm bonused out. Let's go.
Yeah, possibly.
And how big do you think an RTS can get in this day and age? Do you think that there's room for it to be as big as even StarCraft II was? Do you think players want that style of game? I mean, certainly, obviously, there are still people playing Brood War professionally. Professionally, there are still people playing StarCraft II. Like that stuff's still happening, of course. But do you?
I think there's potential. I think there's room in the way that, like, if somebody has a really like new approach to it, or like, I don't know if the answer is make it more accessible. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but I feel like it's been long enough since there was a huge RTS that, like, coming in and, like, let's say, like, if Riot was to announce, we're going to make an RTS, like, that's after the fighting game, here comes an RTS, I wouldn't be completely shocked. I'd be like,
it would be really wild for them or Valve or somebody to say, like, hey, we're taking our MOBA universe and making an RTS out of it, like just going back the other way. That would be fascinating to see.
Yeah. I've got to say, I've been playing a little bit of the Age of Empires 3 remake. I'm going to talk more about it next week, but like, the online for that is very healthy. It's a lot of nostalgia, obviously. It's not people like, oh, I loved it, Age of Empires back in the day, but like, you can find a match like that.
Yeah,
that's cool. I don't know what the mass appeal of a new RTS is, and I don't even know how much I want to play a new RTS, but I can definitely say that StarCraft II is by far the most fascinating and exhilarating esport that I have ever watched. And like, I love watching professional Dota, but it's kind of a different thing. Like, there's some amount of like improvisation in Dota for sure, but a lot of it is like teamwork and execution.
Yeah.
But the potential for like player creativity in StarCraft II matches is like nothing else I have ever seen in a spectator video game situation. Like,
you have to be a lot more reactive.
Totally. Not only reactive, but also just thinking, like, you know, it's fucking cliche, but thinking outside the box. You know, it's like, who the fuck would think to build a command center there? Like, that makes no sense. Like, that breaks every rule in
the barracks
game.
At the bottom of the stairs,
right?
And then
like competitive StarCraft 2 is nothing but people breaking and exploiting the rules of like a very diverse rule set and like toolbox, and like it was so endlessly fascinating. And I would love to see new stuff in that space at least.
Do any of you have any sense of how that CNC remaster did?
I don't know.
I know it seemed like it was relatively well received. I mean, I certainly thought it was cool that they made it, but at the same time, I played 5 or 6 missions in on each side and went like, all right, cool, yeah. So I don't know. I think it. Well, I don't know. I thought it reviewed well, if I remember right, but yeah, I don't know if it like did well for them or anything like that, or if that'll be like a good signifier if EA should make more Command and Conquer, which I imagine was something they were at least like looking at to be like, hey, if this sells above this, then maybe we should think about making another one of those or whatever. Right. But I don't know. I think there's like, for me, I think that's the other thing about RTS is that the things I would want out of an RTS in this day and age are dramatically different from things that would make it a viable esport and all that sort of stuff. So I think serving those different masters, because, you know, it was the great thing about StarCraft 1 back in the day, and StarCraft 2, I guess maybe like slightly less so, but those games could appeal to anyone. They had really good long campaigns, and people were into RTS campaigns back then. And, you know, the multiplayer was a different beast, but still like very engaging. You know, you could just play it with friends against CPU, against AI stuff and all that before you ever thought about playing against other humans, which is what me and my friends mostly did, was just play against AI co-op almost. And you just had that variety of things you could do with it that appealed to a lot of different skill levels. And to me, I think that's a big part of like what made those games so popular back then. But like StarCraft 2, I think after a certain point, even before like the 3rd game had come out, had already kind of crossed over and just like, well, this is that esport thing, and I, you know, like maybe I'll check back in to see how the story wrapped up. But I don't think I actually ever played the 3rd StarCraft to
Oh, I got so
myself
anime.
at all.
I got so
I think I
anime.
just watched the anime. I think you showed me the anime, and I went like, yeah, fucking badass. I'm glad I got to see that, but boy, I didn't.
It ended with Kerrigan becoming a god and Jimmy Raynor her kind of consort.
Yeah.
It was implied that they were going around the galaxy repopulating planets
Oh,
by doing it.
now that is Jimmy.
What a weird thing that turned out to be.
Yeah.
Anything to say about the God? I've completely forgotten what they're calling it. Give me just 2 seconds.
I think they're calling it the Duo, aren't they? Is just the analog
just
Duo?
The Duo? Where did my news stories
Yeah.
go? Please tell me.
Duo.
I think I closed that window. No, I didn't. Here it is.
Then they come out with the Trio.
Yeah.
Yes, Analog Duo. Is there anything to say about Analog's take on the TurboGrafx / PC Engine?
I think it looks beautiful.
What's the Turbo Graphics?
yeah.
So back when the Super Nintendo and the Genesis were the consoles of the day, there was another one that was called the TurboGrafx 16. Kanye West was a big fan.
The Nippon Electronic Company was founded in 1956.
Yeah. The PC Engine, and then the game PC Genjin. Anyway,
Impact.
yes. PC Genshin Impact. Bonk it's just 5-star bonks all day long.
I'm with you. The second I saw this thing, like the first thing that hit me yet again is that Analog's industrial design is fucking incredible.
Yeah.
I am super not on board with the business model they have decided to carve out for themselves, which is to make another goddamn plastic box for every single console under the sun, which is not what I want. And I'm in a world where the Mister now exists. I don't care anymore that this is what they're doing. But
yes,
the way these things look is so nice. It looks like if the consoles from that era had just continued to be iterated on right up to today. They capture that style of design, but in the modern way, in such a really nice looking way.
Yeah. So what they're making is a $200 box that will play TurboGrafx 16 and it'll also play the CD games. And it is, ideally, assuming based on some of their past work and just where the FPGA scene is at these days, it would be an accurate recreation of that hardware in an FPGA. And so their designs are always built around running the real hardware, running the real software. Putting your Hue cards into the slot and putting the CDs into the drive. And I assume I haven't actually read into it. I assume you're gonna probably need to put a CD system card into it to boot CD games.
Does that have the BIOS on it or something?
Yeah, it's basically like a firmware almost for the CD stuff. And then I think the arcade card had a little bit of RAM on it or something too. It'll play TurboGrafx games.
Yeah.
And
it does the thing.
Super Graphics games, and which there are like 5. There are like 5 Super Graphics games.
What?
Literally.
I was joking when I said I don't know what the Turbo Graphics is, but I swear to God, I've never heard of a Super Graphics.
I mean, the Super literally has like 5 games, maybe 6.
Super Graphics is like a PC Engine Pro. It is the half-step console up from the PC Engine that has like slightly more hardware capability while also running old games. But they made 5. They made 5 games.
5 games.
Yeah, yes.
Literally
it's
5
like
games.
a complete failure of a system.
Yeah.
1941 Counterattack, Aldines, Battle Ace, Ghosts and Ghouls and Ghosts, and Mado King Granzort. Literally 5 video games. Is that the smallest that there's ever been for an actual console release?
Probably.
It has to be, right?
Probably.
Like
30,
unless you're counting like the computer that they played Pong on.
Right. Yeah. But also the Super Graphics looks sick. And
check this out.
I love the look of it. It is so weird.
Oh yeah, it's got a real 90s vibe to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like something out of RoboCop.
So yeah, I think Analog does great work, and I think they make great looking stuff. But again, like the Mister is a platform that can play all this stuff. It doesn't require you to use original software, so you don't have to like keep a bunch of discs out and about, especially as those discs are just going up in value as time goes on. So it's like, I'm not attached to the physical specimen of just like, I'm putting this artifact in this console and then it works. Like, I don't need that. That's not that interesting to me, as well as like buying one of their boxes for each platform when, the Mister, which is an open source platform using a lot of similar internals and concepts that Analog's devices use, can run all that and more. And that's where I'm at with it. As I look at it and go like, gosh, this is beautiful.
Yeah.
The device they have made just looks gorgeous.
That slot loading CD-ROM is pretty inspiring.
Yeah. Just a really great looking system. And so that's cool. But I'm in a situation where I have a Mister that will run all that stuff really well. And I also have a Duo R, like the actual hardware, modified for RGB output and a region switch and all that other stuff on it. So like my real hardware needs are met in the darkest way possible, through SCART ports and all that other shit. But also the Mister does exactly what I want it to do, especially when it comes to the PC Engine, that library, the TurboGrafx. Like that core is very mature. It runs stuff quite well. So that's an awesome thing. I don't think I am interested in buying one. They're also going to bring, I guess, at least the cars, not the CDs, but they're going to bring an adapter to the Analog Pocket when that comes out. If I'm reading that right.
For HuCard TurboGrafx games.
Yeah.
Which is cool. Are they going to make a TV tuner, though? That's the question.
Right, exactly. If they don't make a TV tuner, then what are we even doing?
Yes. God, my cousin had a Turbo Express and the TV tuner. It was fucking...
Ryan McDonald had
Ryan
McDonald had this, like, I took a flight with him back from CES or something when we were like 16, 17, whatever it was. He had a Turbo Express, he had the TV tuner, and then he had his 8mm, or maybe it was like a VHS-C or whatever. He had his camcorder plugged into it. On tape, he had a copy of Pulp Fiction that I believe he had filmed in the theater.
Yes, perfect. I was going to ask, please tell me that it was recorded off of a screen.
Hand cam.
And then he had all of that strung together on an airplane so that he could watch Pulp Fiction on a plane.
On a Turbo Express.
On a Turbo Express.
That's amazing. That is the most Ryan McDonald story I have heard. Well, that's up there.
That's kind of incredible.
That's up there.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
That's good stuff. Life finds a way. Just want to read like 3 emails and call it a podcast?
Give me your best emails.
Oh, wow. I'm glad you asked. Bombcast@giantbomb.com is the email address. I'm just going to start at the start from Tom. Has Jeffrey Toobin ruined Toobin?
No, nothing can ruin Toobin.
To be clear, that is Toobin apostrophe.
SEO.
That's
yeah.
That's a good point. You know what? I'm going to type in quotes to make sure that it respects the apostrophe. I'm going to type Toobin apostrophe. There is there is nary a reference to the classic arcade game Toobin.
Oh no!
On the entire first page of Google search results.
People are already using Toobin as a verb.
Yeah, that's where it gets dangerous. Is that when they start verbing it, that's where Toobin the video game runs into some trouble.
Yeah.
But Biff and Jet are eternal. I'm not worried about Biff with 1 F. I am definitely not worried about Jet.
How many T's?
1 T.
Yeah.
They will be fine. Toobin is a great video game. It has survived worse.
I made sure to always play it at California Extreme. It was definitely on my have-to-play list.
I always just took both the warps, like that you get right out of the gate, and went way too far forward to where it was way too hard, and then I lost and be like, shit.
That's Toobin. I mean,
that's Toobin. That's Toobin. Don't. I knew people.
Toobin more fun with a friend next to you.
You know, I think that's an individual answer that I don't necessarily want to say. Speak for everybody, one way or the other on that. But you know,
you probably last longer.
Yeah, definitely.
You can help each other.
That's true. Yeah, you can help, or you can kind of hinder each other. I think in a sense too. So, you know, you really got to be careful when you're shooting cans.
Huh?
What
were you talking about?
Toobin.
There's no Mr. Sport for Toobin yet. I just checked. Just to make sure.
Yeah, no, Arcade Toobin Gauntlet is sort of running.
We'll get there.
There is a gauntlet core.
Perhaps there will be a renewed interest in getting that hardware working.
Oh, that'd be great. If what came of this was a high quality open source FPGA core for Toobin, then this will have all been worth it. Speaking as someone who did not have to witness that, I don't want to take away from what they.
Maybe not everyone might agree, but yes,
not everyone might agree. But
I think that guy could have been saved with a simple hand check.
Yeah,
you know, that's why it's there. That is why the hand check is there.
Yeah, yeah. That's I don't look. I get that, like, the lines between work hours and home hours have become very blurred through this pandemic, and it's hard to know when you're on the clock and off the clock. But I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say, if you're on a Zoom call that's a work thing, just hang on, don't crank off during the work thing.
But we can still have hardcore pornography open on our second monitor, right?
That's you do you.
Proceed at your own risk.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Everyone has to make their own choices.
I knew people that worked night shifts in call centers and stuff like that, and they would occasionally brag about, like, just disappearing into a bathroom for a while when things got slow. And it was just like this real thing. It was like, I don't want to hear about that. I don't need to hear about that.
Keep it to yourself.
I don't need to hear. But that was, I don't know why, but that was the first thing I thought of when this story came up, was just like, because I went right to, like, why do people crank it at work? Just fucking don't.
I used to work at a startup in downtown San Francisco, really tall building, like 20-floor building that was all startups. So it was in flux a lot. There were, like, empty floors a lot of the time because people would move in, get too big, move out, etc. And so, like, for some reason, the 17th floor or something was always vacant. It was always open. And so people would go down there on especially long days, maybe take a quick nap during lunch, like, just kind of, like, have the open space to themselves. And I definitely walked in on two of my coworkers making out down there one time. I was, like, going down there to take a nap, I think. I walked down, they're making out, they turned, and they, like, gave me a glare as if I had, like, ruined their good time, which, I mean, I did, but
you did, yeah.
You didn't put a sock on the elevator door, or else I would have known what was happening.
Yeah, that's on them.
That's on them. I feel like which is worse, walking in on two of your coworkers having sex, or walking in on one of your coworkers masturbating?
I'm going to say walking in on one of your coworkers masturbating is...
I think so. I think you're
yeah.
right. But I think
worse.
Well, the other one, you have two people now that know that you know.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. I don't know. That's a weird one.
Yes,
I think if we were to ask an HR business professional the answer to that question, they might have a different.
They might say, "We're not paid.
Both are bad." They might say, "Please stop talking about this.
You don't work here anymore."
I think that part of me feels like that has to be the only email. I don't know.
And check.
Part of me feels like we should just call it there.
Oh boy.
What is the best video game grenade, frag or sticky? Alex from Austin.
Sticky.
Incendiary.
Not an option.
Yeah, the
best. Not presented as an option.
Sticky.
I usually
sticky.
Sticky's probably actually better, but I usually go with the frag.
I'm gonna say frag because you can bounce it off a wall.
Yeah.
If somebody's behind cover, you can't sticky them.
It's true.
Exactly right.
Unless you're very good at your angles.
But when you stick the sticky and it gets all sticky, it's a great feeling.
When you're Toobin and you get those stickies going.
Mm-hmm. Oh, could you imagine if Toobin had stickies? Like, instead of just throwing cans,
you just had, like, different weapon types. Like, yeah, the world needs an updated Toobin. I feel like
I have been saying this for decades, that, like, a proper Toobin 2. I think that there's just a lot more you could do with an inner tube and a river.
You can get those, like, you could be on, like, a flamingo. Toobin technology has advanced so far.
Yeah. I want, powered tubes. You know, maybe get a power up for the tube that gives it, literal jets, not just Jet on the tube throwing cans.
You play as the children of Jet and Biff.
Mm-hmm.
Jet and Jiff.
Love it. Great.
Are we we're in the after show now, right? Should I just, Shan, you and I can just leave this call and I'll just leave the stream going and
We can talk more about sticky grenades if you want, man.
welcome to the after show. Welcome to the
Tuesday.
From now on, the after show's just rolled into the show. Keep them coming.
It can't be after the show if it's still the show.
I like
what you want it to be.
Grenades. Those are cool because you get a lot of little explosions. That's neat.
Yeah.
That's it
Yeah.
That's it for emails. Thanks to everybody who read it. thanks.
But I think I'm with
to
you.
both of you for writing in.
Yeah, incendiary grenades and the cluster grenades, I think those are more fun.
Cluster grenades are fun.
I want to cover more ground, not less. Sticky grenades are very precise, and I'm rarely precise.
Good against a boss, maybe. Really handy against like something big you can kind of stick.
Mm-hmm.
It's fair.
They make for great screenshots, though.
Yep.
Like when you get the stick just right.
Yeah, and the humiliation of getting stuck is that's real for sure. Sticky is more fun, higher reward, higher risk. Whereas I just like to just cover as much ground as possible and make a real mess.
Yeah.
But I
Kill
bet,
them all like
but,
that sort of
but I bet you can't stick it.
No.
Yes, you can.
That's all I got here.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks to everybody who wrote in. That's it for this podcast.
All right.
Now what?
Oh boy.
That's it. It's already 2:30, so this literally was the here. I'll open up the questions tab real quick.
Here, I can fade down to black and then come back up if you guys want to do an after show.
Cali Unit says, "You ever been catfished by $1 billion Monday Night Combat?" It says MNC. I assume that's what that means. I don't know.
Hang on, I'm gonna fade.
Yes,
this
I
is
don't want to talk
thanks,
about it.
Thanks for listening to the Giant Bombcast. We'll be back in seconds with the Giant
No, because we have
Bomb
to clap again.
aftermath.
No,
we could do that. We could do that while
I
we're
need,
off.
I need the clap. I need the
no,
clap.
we can do all of this. Trust me, it's all in hand. I've got it under control here. Thanks everybody for listening. Maybe we'll be back in a second. I don't know. See you next week. Thanks.